I'm going to call this meeting to order, and we're going to add to our agenda under ARPA funding. We're going to add fire department request for pagers. And under new business, we have a resignation for the EMD and cemetery committee that we need to address. And with that, we have the minutes of December 13th and December 20th.
I'll make a motion, we approve the minutes for December 13th and December 20th.
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We have warrants 13 and the payroll 13P.
I'll make a motion, we approve warrants 13 and 13P.
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion? The warrant 13 is for $19,004.76, and that was going to, among other things, fuel, legal services, highway department supplies, payroll transfers, sand from the carpenter pit, and the sheriff's monthly bill. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. All right. We're going to hold off on the ARPA funding, and we can go right into visitors and public comment. If anyone has anything they'd like to comment on that's not on the agenda.
Is Mike coming?
Yes, Mike is coming, or at least I think he is.
We think he is.
Yep. So, all right, anything, road foreman's report, we have any
They've just been cleaning culverts.
cleaning culverts? Okay. Anything you
Much
want?
damage from the,
How are the culverts?
No, there's been some.
There's a lot of culverts in this town.
I think they're over
It's really
600.
it's a nemesis,
Yeah,
you know, because culverts are great. As long as they don't get clogged up with leaves and sticks and she'll kick me if I get rattled along. But, you know, I think there's always that importance of how important it is to keep culverts clean, keep the ditch lines clean with leaves. I get that nice task of going out and using a high-end blower to get rid of those leaves out of those ditches and stuff, and people are always kind of bagging on me like, what a waste of time and money. But they don't realize the importance of that, because once those culverts get plugged up, then their road is washed out, which just means more and more money. So I've always thought this in our little town publication, it'd be nice, whether it's a road foreman or somebody, to put a little bit of this is what your town highway department endures. You
We're
know?
always looking for people to write those articles.
Yeah, well,
I'm just throwing that out at you.
Line them up, me and Leland.
We don't want to write it.
It's having to do the snowplow stuff for
Somebody
January.
has to
Right.
censor it afterwards.
the leaf blowing comes up every once in a while, and we're told that it's a waste of money,
Yeah.
but I don't think people understand it's
right. Well, that's,
keeps the culverts clear.
yeah. Well, it's the same idea of, what does a town employee actually do? First thing comes to mind is, they plow the roads and maintain the roads. And it's just much deeper than that. I bet you could probably ask a lot of people that question, and that's where you'll get those 3 or 4 things. I did make up a little list of.
But 85, I'd say 85% of the culverts that were plugged was because there was a stick, and this can be the stick going across the front of that culvert, and then the leaves just built up. And if you go look at some of the roads, the washout on the side of the road going down the ditch line is impressive. I mean, there's some that are over a foot deep. And it's because of the leaves, not because of dirt getting piled in there. Just the water didn't have to go anywhere because those leaves were, and with that leaf blower. Because I would be honest with you, I was one of those people who was like, why are we blowing these leaves out of here like this? Until I've seen it work and been there to have to clean those ditches. And like I said, I bet you 85 to 90% of it is because of one stick and all leaves.
Yeah. And then, of course, when you're doing that, people don't like leaves on their lawns. I mean, it helps you out, right? But it's like, it was brought to my attention, and I'll use it next year, very politely, of course. It's like, well, these leaves came from your trees. Maybe you should keep your leaves off our roads. Because it's just that just goes with the job, I suppose. But it's the understanding. I think it's sometimes a little lack. Even when it's snowing and you're out there plowing and someone can't make it up the road because they still have their all radial tires on, and they just leave the car in the middle of the road, and you can't finish your route. Just all those little things. It'd be nice to compile a list of things that, people, that we have to deal with. And then, of course, there's always the list too. So we're on the record here, aren't we? But, it's just, there's just a lot, because when I started making up a list, I didn't realize, I said, there's a lot more than, it's just, right now we're 24/7, whether it's Christmas Day or Christmas evening or the day before. It could be a beautiful day, tree falls down in Stickney Brook. Of course, that's on my side of the river, so I get to go. And that's just part of the job, but it's, you're out there when everybody else is, home enjoying themselves or whatever. CDLs, okay.
All right.
You get the gist of what it'd be just nice to let people know, what actually happens, what we're responsible for. And it's just everything from soup to nuts.
And you get chased by people with baseball bats come out after you with baseball
occasionally.
bats.
That's a
Well,
little
that's
bit.
happened. Our townspeople have threatened us with bats and come out across the yards with a baseball bat threatening us. I could tell you his name, but his name is not a polite name to say.
No, it's all right.
When we asked him what his name was, he gave us some derogatory name. But
I'm not quick on my, thinking, because I could have said, well, that is a strange name. I've never heard that name before. But
we do get that from people too, so it's just not always the pleasantries.
Yeah. But anyways, that's just it.
Okay. Is there anything under correspondence for information you'd like to discuss? Okay, moving along, correspondence for discussion and/or action.
Oh, I contacted the EWPP folks. The guy who knows the area who did the report is out until the beginning of January. But he'll get back to me. I've got a printout also of that little slice of land that does belong to the town on the south side of the road. But really, I'll talk to him about the whole length of it, because really it's one of these things that, we don't want the road to go in the water.
Right.
That's I think the biggest part for the town. The residents, that's up to them, kind of what they want to do. But we'll talk about it once he's able to break it out into something more specific, because he did it all as one bid. So.
Well, just another thing on that, that's the landowner's thing until it gets too close to the road. And then it's going to be going to be back into a town thing.
Yep.
I guess one question I'd like to have for him would be, what would the cost be if we waited till it gets to the road for the town compared to what the cost is right now to fix it? If we could work out something with the landowners and the town to split that up, so we don't get to the point it gets to the road.
Right. I'll see what he says.
A stitch in time saves 9.
Exactly.
Right.
Okay, let's see, we had an email from Beverly Tier regarding our December 20th budget work session.
Yeah, I'd like to speak on that. Because it starts out that last night's meeting was enlightening, but it got, at one point she said it got really electric. The air was really electric last night. And I do believe that the air got electric at one point when I was trying to explain the comp time, and one of the town residents just kept saying, no, you're not right. And it's just like trying to explain to him, do the math. Do the math and trying to explain it out. Other than that, I don't believe it got electric. I don't think I did. If anybody here thinks I did, that was at the meeting, I'd like to hear it because I don't believe I did. And then the letter itself, if you read, I hope everybody read it.
Yeah, I read it.
But this letter does not sound like it was written by somebody that was sitting in the audience, because a lot of the stuff that was said in it here was, we talked about the 180 hours of overtime and cutting that down. And we were saying that we don't want to use the overtime to, cut, for the deficit. That's not, we want to have a level budget. So why that was put in there, I don't understand, because we as the board said that that's not what we want to do. So that was in there. And then another thing that came up was the merit raises, and that we just adopted it out of thin air. Well, we've never had, as long as I've ever been on the board, since the early 2000s, a policy about raises. We've never sat down and said we're going to do COLAs. We've never said we're going to do raises. I mean, COLA, cost of living increase, is one thing. A raise is a different thing. COLA, yes, you get more money, but that's a cost of living increase. A raise is a raise. I've always been for a merit raise for people. We tried it one time with the road crew, and what we had done was we budgeted everybody to get a 3% raise, and then put another percent there for Lee to pay out as he felt it should be. And it was to get the guys more in line to where he thought they should be. That was one time that happened, while I was on the board, I recall. And then going down, she said about I should be recusing myself from the employee wages and discussion because I have a family member. If this was the case, Maria wouldn't be able to talk about the fire department. She has a relative there. You wouldn't be able to talk about the fire department. You have a relative. You wouldn't be able to talk about the Conservation Commission.
Hot topic.
Or animal control license.
Right, I mean, it's a small town, we have relatives. If anybody knows, I've never treated Lee any differently than I've treated anybody else. I've been a person that's always, throughout my working career, have fought for the working person to get a fair wage. I've just done it everywhere. When I own my own business, I wanted my employees to have a fair wage. So, and I did recuse myself when it came to my part-time part of it. That's the only place I think I should recuse myself. And to be honest with you, that's the only place I will recuse myself. And I sat over there, and Mr. Normando said that it wasn't fair, that I shouldn't be able to be here. I have just as much right as a resident to face the board and give my opinion, just like he gives his, and anybody else over here gives their opinion to the board. And I believe everybody on this board said they did not have a problem with that. And if you did, sorry, but I would still sit over there and give you my thing. So I sort of like the fact that she thought I could be leading the board members to do my bidding, because I don't ever see that happening. And for people to think that Lee and I are family, and that, I'm going to do him any favors, because if I am, he sure as heck isn't me, because I've been in those ditches 28 degrees with mud up to my knees, so we don't play favoritism. I never have, never would. And I really don't appreciate anybody saying that about me. And if you think that's the case, I tell you what I think of you. So then we go down further, and we talked about the towns that we were going to compare Dummerston with. And Todd, I believe you said it, we're not gonna cherry pick the towns. And then her thing, I would hope you're not gonna cherry pick the towns. I mean, if you were sitting here, you had to have heard this. This is something that somebody was here and they went back and got behind a computer and it made them, puff out their chest, I guess, or they got with their neighbors or something and said, oh, well, why don't we put this and that? This letter is complete hogwash. And I don't mean to be disrespectful to anybody, but to write something like this, if you were at that meeting, you don't have, come to more meetings. But everything that was in this letter, we had discussed. And why it's here, I have no clue. And then to ask if the employees are getting, just getting a job, pulling a wage. Like I've said, go on these roads. Go up Hill Road. Hill Road is 3 different roads. It goes Hill Road, Lost Mile Road, Beverly Road. And I will guarantee you would be able to tell when you hit the different roads. And because the Dummerston parts are in excellent shape, or I won't say excellent shape, but a lot better shape. Go down Bunker Road. You'll be able to tell when you get into Putney. Not meaning to slam Putney or anything, but you will tell these guys take pride in their work. Lee takes pride in trying to make these roads the best he can. And like I said, the employees, the guys on the crew, they do too. I mean, it's actually been a joy to work with these guys, to watch them actually more part-time. I used to just do the plowing, but now I've been coming in helping them with the roads, and they have actually, to see what they do every day is pretty impressive. So, and then the last part is, wants to thank Lewis for his service as a town employee. Well, that was at the point where I said, this is what baffles me, was no more. I'm going to do it, and I want to get paid for what I'm worth. I've done it for all those years, coming in, working over 24 hours straight at $16 an hour when I have a business to run. So I just hope everybody looks at this and can agree that this letter should have never been written like it was, because I can't say enough how much I disagree and how disappointed I am with a townsperson like that.
I was disappointed with that letter as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff in there that was, a lot of things were covered. So it didn't make any sense, because I saw her sitting there the whole time.
Right.
So almost everything, she had some concerns about the merit raises if we were just handing them out. In fact, there were no merit raises except for one that we're talking about, which was to bring one person up to his duty and responsibilities within the town garage. That's why all the rest of the raises were not merit. I don't think she realized, because she said that, she goes, why are we just handing out whatever? So if we're not handing out, this has been discussed for 4 meetings in a row, right? We didn't just pull this out of nowhere. So it was a little surprising, to say the least.
Okay,
Yeah.
So is the board going to respond in any way?
I think that was probably.
No, I mean directly to the writer of the letter.
I expected her to be here, but
I didn't. I really didn't. I mean, like I said, I think this was something that you can go home
Yeah.
and hide behind your computer to write something like that.
I mean, you can draft a response, or she can watch the meeting and get the response.
I would honestly, thank you, Gail, for saying that, because I would honestly like somebody from the board, not myself, to write a response to this. But that's up to them, and I'm not gonna try to have them do my bidding. So.
what do you think?
Can just give it a shot. See what comes out.
That okay?
Yeah.
You
Everyone?
might want to refer her to some of the state statutes that talks about appropriate times to recuse, which you did, and things like that, that there are mechanisms in place that the board or the member took advantage of. So that's a positive comment.
It's a very clear policy
Yeah.
and recusal, and conflict.
Right.
Yeah, the whole conflict of interest, because everybody has a conflict, being, again, like you said, a small town.
Right. I couldn't find one for Zeke though. I tried.
Not at the moment. All right, so, great, thank you. Okay, let's, we're still waiting for Mike Mrowicki. But let's get into new business. We'll hold off on the,
Well, the fire department's here now.
everyone?
waiting on one
Oh,
member.
okay.
They'll be here in like 2
All right,
minutes.
we'll come back to, let's hold off on the, signing, the new contract for the fire truck. Let's go down to, set a date for zoning bylaw revisions, a public hearing. You all saw the revisions, zoning bylaw revisions. We have to have a public hearing. It can be, at the, during a regular meeting, we would just recess at 7 and have a public hearing and then see what comment we get and then finish out our regular meeting. But it has to be no less than 30 days,
I think so.
no more than 40.
Yeah.
So, who's got a
What would,
calendar? Oh, there's one. I can't see it from here, but
A calendar that ends in 2 to 3 days.
Used to be a big calendar there.
Yeah.
is there
So no less than,
I think no less than 30 days.
January?
we're gonna do
It doesn't go into January.
I think it gives you the next year if you do. It's I think.
Can you actually just pull that right down?
Is that 24? Yeah.
Yes, it is 20.
Yeah.
Yeah, just rip that down gently.
Thank you.
Because, we don't want to use our computers or our phones.
No,
So the next page.
Yeah, so no less than, from what date?
here's the 27th.
Well, today. There's 31 days, so that'd be, the 26th would be 30 days from now. Right?
How are you doing that now?
Well, it's 30-day month, it'd be the 27th, but it's a 31-day month, so it'd be the 26th.
That's a budget meeting.
Yeah.
That's a regular meeting. The 24th will be a regular meeting.
No sooner than,
Would that be
I think that's
more
the
than
one.
40?
because we can't do it before the 30-day mark.
No.
Right.
So it's the 7th would
So
be
the
the,
7th.
But when did we actually get that letter?
I think it's sort of like zoning, posting. I think it would be from now.
Yeah.
Oh,
think so.
Yeah.
so 7 Feb
Okay,
in
7th,
the regular meeting,
7th at 7.
at the end of the regular meeting, or whenever we finish.
I think having it at 7 is a
Classic.
statutory requirement.
Oh, okay.
And you can set it just for a half an hour. I can tell you that the planning commission did their public hearing. Nobody showed up.
I don't think the items being revised are going to generate a whole lot of interest.
I don't think so.
Okay, February 2nd,
7th,
7th.
7th,
7th.
but the second month of the year as well.
Well, that is true.
Oh,
Nice
okay.
save.
I say it again.
Okay, great. I guess we have to post that.
Yeah. Do you want me to just find the one from the planning commission? I'll send it to Lori and ask her to
Yeah,
put
let's
it in
do
the
that.
comments. Okay.
I think that'd be fine. Okay, shall we take a break from our new business? And we have Representative Mike Mrowicki here, who would like to give us a little chat about whatever he wants to do. Do you want to come up?
Sure. I'm gonna take my sweater off. You got the heat working here pretty good.
Well,
you were standing next to the
new
wood
heat
stove.
pumps.
And wood stove.
Yeah, wood stove,
I
yeah.
stood there today and went, ooh, it's hot.
I know what this
Well, thank you for the time. I don't know how deep you're into budget yet, but I know
deep.
that's
Oh, we're
deep
thinking
enough.
about getting.
Yeah, it's that time. I've got some notes here, and try and be brief.
Oh.
Just give you the update on what we hope to be doing in the coming year and how some of it might reflect quite directly here in Dummerston. First thing we're going to be...
Do you know everyone?
Well, I recognize faces, but I don't always remember names, so maybe...
Louis White.
Hi, Louis.
Alex Wilson.
Yeah.
Zeke Band?
Todd Davidson.
Maria Glayback.
Hi. And I'm Mike. And usually I have people pronounce my last name in English instead of Polish, but
How I always
yeah.
have a trouble. What should I say?
Mrowicki in Polish is Mrowicki.
Oh, that's what I almost did.
You almost did that.
I think sometimes Anglophiles get more than a few consonants in a row and they kind of trip over that. But so I think one of the biggest things that we're going to try and be looking at is how do we keep this economy going. Post-COVID, we're doing pretty well, I think, as a state and a nation. I know there has been a large group who has been just sitting around waiting for a recession to happen. And the indicators seem to be right now that we're heading for a soft landing instead of a recession. And unless something on the international scale really throws us off, things look pretty good. I mean, in Vermont, we've got one of the lowest unemployment rates in the country. Inflation is going down across the country, and while oil is still as volatile as ever, no pun intended, the prices are as volatile as it is in fact. Right now I saw gas today for $2.99 a gallon. But how do we keep that going? One of our biggest challenges is workforce. And as the great retirement continues, and the many people who left the workforce during COVID, including many women, who because they couldn't find childcare or they couldn't afford it or they realized that what they were paying in childcare took up a lot of what they were earning, they decided to leave the workplace and either stay home or do something less. So that's one of the biggest challenges we have as workforce. Right now, I believe we have 20,000 open jobs in the state of Vermont and only 10,000 active job seekers. That's almost unheard of in how I can remember, but the reality is, and that's with an unemployment rate that's a little over 1%. So one of the challenges is where are we going to get workers? And that's a bigger picture that we're looking at. And then added to that challenge is, if we get workers here, where are they going to live? We have a housing shortage that's been building for years, and I think there's a consensus now that we want to do something about it. One of the things we have done, and I want to share and hope you folks, if you don't know about it, it's the VHIP program. It's the Vermont Housing Improvement Program. Now this allows for grants up to $50,000 if people want to create an apartment in their house, add units to an existing building, create an accessory dwelling in owner occupied, or to bring vacant rental units up to codes. And that program actually proved so popular in the last year that we exhausted all the money we budgeted for it. So we're going to be budgeting more. And it's something that I hope we can help spread the word here in. I don't think we're going to find one solution to the housing problem here. But I think this and lots of other things can help. And if we can add an apartment here, one of the things we're finding is there's a lot of people who are in big houses, who used to have a number of children, and those children are gone now. And those are opportunities for where someone might want to add an apartment. So the VHIT program is something that is successful, and I think will continue to be successful. It's one of those things we can share with constituents. In this area, it's administered by the Woodland Windsor Housing Trust. You know, there's a series of housing trusts around Vermont, and they would be the one to call to get more information. And
Isn't there a loophole on that though, that you can't decide who lives there?
There's various qualifications depending upon what you do. So there's not just one set.
And all the horror stories you're hearing about people not moving out of the house once they get in there and not paying rent.
So can you be more specific about that?
Just read, if somebody moves into my apartment.
Yeah, but mean specifically, you have someone who that's happened.
No, I'm just saying the horror stories you're
I
hearing.
know there's rumors and whatnot.
Well, I mean, it's.
I know there are also landlords who experience situations where it's hard to get somebody out, but I'm not sure this is directly tied to this program.
Well, I'm just wondering who I'm going to be able to allow to move into that apartment.
Well, again, specifically, if you go to the Wyndham Windsor Housing Trust, they have that information about who. And again, it depends upon what you're doing, whether you're doing existing, if you have rental units already, and if you're adding something, it's a different thing too. So with any money that comes, there's going to be qualifications attached to it.
Strings.
So I think that, again, the specifics you can find out.
Now, Mike, do you happen to know, or do other select board members know, if Dummerston's zoning would need to change to allow accessory dwelling units?
I don't think so, and I think something was already done, but what I will say is that there will be in the next legislative session as well some qualifications around zoning, around helping towns upgrade their zoning, and we're going to make some changes in Act 250 that are going to make housing more readily available to be put into towns. And I think this is something that's been 50 years in the works, and we think we've struck a balance between people who don't want to change anything with our environmental laws, people who do, and then people who want to help create housing. There's been work going on already over the summer and fall, and Representative Seth Bongartz from Manchester has been working hard on this, bringing people together who we didn't think we were going to get to come together and have agreements over this. So I think there's going to continue to be some changes in how zoning looks, and suggestions from the state and what we're going to do with Act 250. So stay tuned for that, how it starts out and what it looks like by the time you get done with it could be another thing entirely. Thank you. Not treating my Christmas present very nicely. So that's something I think people can avail themselves of. They have been, and we're going to continue to look and see what we can do. Like I said, I don't think there's one big solution to housing, but the reality is we need housing. Climate's another issue we're going to have to work on. And after the summer we had, extreme rain, extreme heat, extreme wildfire smoke coming down from Canada, 50-year storms, 100-year storms that are no longer 50 or 100-year storms, but the new normal. And as we saw right down street here at Salmon Brook, what happened there, we'd like to think is an anomaly, but the reality is, I think there's going to need to be more work on Salmon Brook. And things like that, we want the state to get in front of. And one of the things we're going to try and do is create a state resiliency fund. So that way, something like what happened to Eve Fritz over there in Salmon Brook And who's gonna pay for it? What's the town gonna do? What's she gonna do? This would be a fund that people in towns could turn to. Because this is happening all over Vermont, and we got off lucky compared to what happened over the rest of the state. The flooding, the costs. So we want to start being proactive. We want to front load having help for flooding, for other areas. We had that hard freeze in May. 90% crop loss. Dwight Miller's, Scott Farm, all around the state, huge losses. What are they gonna do to get to the next year to make up for that? That's the kind of
Well,
thing.
most of them have crop insurance.
Well, that's not actually what we've been finding out. And what we've been finding out
Most of the
is,
time, when you have crop insurance and you don't have a crop, you don't have the cost associated with growing a crop and harvesting a crop. So sometimes they get by pretty well.
well, it's not what we're hearing. And,
Yeah, it's just been
what
my
we're hearing about crop insurance is, even when it kicks in, it only kicks in a percentage of the loss. And I know, talking to Dwight Miller, he stopped carrying crop insurance several years ago because he carried it for years, made a claim, and they denied it. And he said to himself, what have I been paying this for years for? So I know he didn't have crop insurance. So what we want to do is, I don't know if we have to argue that agriculture has a place in the landscape of Vermont. We want to make sure that in these situations, farmers can get some help. And if we have future problems like this, hay is a problem across the state right now. Some places only got one cutting in because it was so wet. And I know some places were able to get 2-3 cuttings, some places only one. So those places with one cutting are going to be buying hay. As we move into the future, what's happening now was predicted 20 years ago, that Vermont was going to start seeing a climate more like New Jersey than what people refer to as Vermont. We look outside today and we see a bare landscape. So we are going to be trying to look ahead and do what we can around climate. We're also trying to look at how we can help people cut their costs and decarbonize. There's a lot of ways people can heat their homes now that are using 21st century technologies. And I can tell people that for 35 years, I burned wood exclusively, 5 cords a year. Over the last 5 or so years, putting up 5 cords was a lot, and I was buying my wood, $300 a cord last time. I think that's about what it is this year. So that was about $1,500 a year. I put in a heat pump, and my heating costs last year were $900. Reality is clean heat costs less. And along with subsidies for putting these in, I think these are good investments for the future. Similarly with electric vehicles, average cost of a car right now I think is $47,000. That's any car. That's putting them all together, getting the average. I bought a Chevy Bolt this year for $30,000, $10,000 in rebates. And to fill up my car now, it's about $15. My wife fills up her Subaru and it's about $50. So as we go along, the long-term savings are there. So we can do this. I think it's a good thing to do for the climate. It's a good thing to do economically for people.
Mike, if I can interrupt you on that, have you ever calculated, would you have bought that car
Yeah.
if you had not got the rebate?
Probably.
Okay,
The Chevy Bolt.
so you buy that car for $40,000
Yeah.
and you plug it in.
Yeah.
It's a 220. Have you ever calculated? I mean, I look at 220. I always think of a dryer.
Yeah.
My mom never let us use the dryer because it's so expensive. So where you're saving in fuel, which is awesome, because that's what we talk about. Wow, when you get 60 miles to the gallon or whatever, you know, if it's a hybrid, which I think is a good way to go.
I
But,
think so too.
you know, plugging that in to actually see what your electric bill, and throw that into the mix. So all the facts and the batteries, how they're made, how expensive they're going to be when that car, you got to replace your batteries.
Sure.
Are you going to get help with that battery? And who's going to take that battery away from you?
Sure.
And,
Well,
and add all that in.
that's something that's being studied right now. And when you look at the carbon footprint of creating a gas-powered vehicle versus a electric vehicle, you're still on the good with the battery. And as we go along, there's going to be problems and there's going to be solutions. I think technology is going to continue to get better. Toyota's saying they're going to have a car next year with a 700 mile. I've got about 250 range right now. I think the technology is going to continue to improve. He who should not be named that puts electric cars and satellites in the air, I think is actually moved the needle on the technology as well. So
Do you guys in Montpelier follow the trend of electric car sales in the state of Vermont?
we do.
Is it, I mean, I'm sure it was a spike, and is it tapered? And is it now, without that rebate, because I know
Yeah.
people have bought, and it's like, I would not have bought, if I didn't get that $8,000,
Yeah.
it wouldn't be worth it to me. And it's like, so we're paying people to buy things, and that payment comes from us. So in the grand scheme of things, when it comes to money, to be able to factually put everything out there, so you know what your true cost is versus, you know, we get 60 miles to the gallon.
Yeah.
So, you know, yes, and technology is just leaps and bounds. You know, eventually you're just going to get in your car and say, take me to the town garage. And it's, hopefully it won't make me late.
Yeah.
Lead us like that.
I don't think I'm ready for that one. Because you're talking about
Well, I know, yeah. It's
trucks too. And I don't know if I'm ready for that.
We did a driveway up on Hopkins Road, and I saw a Rivera. It's a totally electric truck.
Yeah.
I got talking to them. So I like talking to people who actually have it, what they utilize it for, and if they've actually looked at their cost.
Yeah.
And he says, I think it's going to work out.
Yeah.
But he doesn't haul. It's a truck. That's what I call it, like a toy truck. But,
Well,
you know,
that's what the governor has.
yeah,
The
you gotta
governor
haul
drives
stuff.
Ford
There's
pickup
things,
that's electric.
town garages are
Yeah.
talking about electric trucks
I
and
think
fire departments.
Prices are going to continue to come down though, as, you know,
Yeah.
it's the laws of supply and demand, hopefully, that the economy of scale brings the costs down. But there's about 10,000 electric vehicles in Vermont right now, and that's out of 600,000.
Right.
We've got about 620,000 people, about 600,000 vehicles.
I just like to have all the
Yep.
facts.
Those
Like
big pictures.
everybody has that agenda and that push, and,
Yep.
and it's like, you know, you have this side and you have this side, and you read both and you say, well, that makes sense, or that makes sense, but it's
I was
boils down
driving a 10-year-old Ford Escape, and I wouldn't have been able to afford a new car otherwise. It's one of the reasons I bought it.
Oh yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. No, the cost of, and trucks,
Yeah.
you know, you get a pickup truck less than $70,000 now, you're doing good. I mean, and I know someone that has a dually that he uses for work, it was $85,000.
Yeah.
I don't know what we do about those kinds of things. But moving on to healthcare. I think the experience I have is what a lot of people are having with healthcare. Continues to get more expensive, and accessibility is becoming an issue. One of the problems with accessibility is we have doctors retiring. We can't attract new doctors to Vermont, and when we do, they can't find housing. You know, it comes back to that circle there where we've got to take some action there. And we need to make Vermont more attractive to people from out of state. We recognize right now that for a lot of people, Well, we have 97% of Vermonters have some sort of health insurance, but only 40% of them have insurance that they will access right away because their co-pays and their deductibles are so high that they're withholding getting medical care. And that's not good medical practice. In the long run, that's going to cost more money. So we need to take a look at what we're doing. We're trying to see how we can continue to keep medical budgets in check. I think we have some issues here in Vermont. There's an entity called One Care Vermont that's supposed to be overseeing a lot of this. And I think a lot of us are not sure that it's actually doing its job. We have the Green Mountain Care Board, which I think is enough. I still can't explain to people what the One Care Board does, but it draws down a bunch of money. It's supposed to be helping contain costs. We're not sure of that, so that's one of those things that we're gonna be taking a look at as we go. What I'd like to, I got a couple more things before I finish up, and then I can be glad to take questions and all. I keep coming back to workforce. How do we make Vermont more attractive? One of the things that the Vermont Chamber of Commerce has taken a lead on is trying to be more welcoming to all people here in Vermont. To look at the population, to look at the face of the nation, the face of Vermont, and seeing that the reality is that the number of people of color coming into the state is growing, and that we actually could use more, especially when it comes to workforce. So the Vermont Chamber of Commerce, and Betsy Bishop is the head of that right now. She was Governor Douglas's chief of staff, stalwart Republican, has really helped take the lead on a program that's going across the state called the Declaration of Inclusion. Now the Declaration of Inclusion asks towns to sign on to say, yeah, we're welcoming. We know we are, but we want other people to know. It's a way of putting out the welcome mat. And we're trying to join up towns around the state. I know this is something that Dummerston's looked at, Putney's looked at, we passed it. It's 130 towns around the state that have passed this to say, yeah, we're welcoming, we're inclusive, and we want the world to know about that. We want people to come here to Vermont. I can say when my kids were at Brattleboro High School, there was about 2% students of color. And now it's 13. The face of our county is changing. The face of Vermont is changing. We want everyone to know that they're welcome here. So when it comes to workforce, I think it makes even more sense. I think as we look to see where the workers of tomorrow are going to come from, let's make sure we don't leave any stone unturned. The last thing I want to talk about is transportation. Now, we just finished a big project on Route 30, which certainly had its ups and downs. And I don't know if you heard from as many people as I did about tires getting damaged, tires getting ruined, but that was a problem. I have been on the phone a lot with V-Trans, who initially was a little reluctant to recognize that there was a problem with what was happening out there, but eventually they got on board and they really leaned hard. And from what I understand, people have had repairs made, they've had tires replaced. And what I want to let people know is if you know someone who had that kind of tire damage and didn't get made whole by the contractors, please let them get in touch with me. I'll be up in Montpelier next week. Somebody there?
I put $2,000 in tires on my vehicles because of that road,
Yeah,
and I got tar all over my white truck because of that road.
yeah. So did you file a complaint?
I was told they weren't doing anything about it, so I just paid for it out of my own pocket.
Well, they are doing about it. So I can give you my card if you want. We can talk because eventually, and I don't know who told you they weren't doing anything about it. But
One of the guys on the road just said,
well, of course
Don't waste your time.
Of course they could.
I'm not gonna go arguing with people about it.
That's true, and that's what you hired me to do. But I'm glad to look into that for you because a lot of people lost tires, and I don't know what it was about what they were doing there that chewed up so many tires, but they sure
Well, it
did.
was pretty clear they were grinding the old asphalt,
Yeah,
and it was in triangles,
yeah,
and it would actually puncture through the rubber. And
yeah. Well, it's done now, and I think it looks pretty good, but I'll give you my contact information. I'm glad to talk to people at V-Trans, because Joe Flynn is commissioner at V-Trans. He's actually a good guy. You know,
I've talked to a few people that got tires paid for.
Yeah, I did.
Damaged
Yeah,
tires.
so I think we might be able to do something there. And then the last thing, finally, I know I depend on the DMV in Dummerston, and a lot of people depend on the DMV in Dummerston. Unfortunately, the floods created the kind of chaos that forced them to close that down. They had to move people around, and their travelers who would come down, the traveling workers that would come down to take care of that anyhow. I have been told and assured that in January they're going to reopen, and it's a good thing. I think that people would have to otherwise go up to Springfield. It's quite a haul, and so we've been pushing hard. And I have to say, Representative Sarah Coffey from Guilford, who is the chair of the House Transportation Committee, has really been pushing hard on this too. We know that Windham County needs to have that Dummerston DMV open. So we are been told January they're going to be back opening up. I don't know how many days a week yet, but I think they were open 2 days a week before this or before COVID. But anyway, we've been pushing for that. We're going to try and make sure that that's taken care of too. So that's basically what I have now, but I also want to remind you, I'm here to bring your voice to Montpelier. And if there's anything, even on the local level, and I can tell you that with the Putney Select Board, they've had a few issues that have come up where some of their board policies in regards to appointed committees and commissions and conflict of interest policies have rubbed up against what state statute is. So we're going to try and fix that for them. If anything like that comes up, or whatever concern you have, I'm here to let you know that please be in touch, and I'm glad to try and push for you.
Okay, any questions?
I got one.
Okay.
All right.
School taxes.
Yeah.
Where are we at? What are we thinking? I mean, you hear people saying numbers that seem crazy. I'm hearing 18.5 is the starting point,
Yeah.
but that may change over the course of the spring.
And I'm pretty sure it will. I mean, that's kind of a good guess. I think the governor likes to do this at this time every year when people start figuring budgets
to scare the hell out of them, is that what you're trying to say? You're trying to do?
sharpen pencils and no, that's not what I would say, but it's I think to raise the awareness that how we spend on the local levels is eventually what gets accumulated and how we figure the property tax rates. So the other piece of it is, and I don't know if you're doing this yet in town, but Putney is doing a reappraisal right now, and I know that there are statutes that say we need to do it every year, and I don't know the increments of how often you need to do that. But we've relaxed that because there's so many towns that have exceeded the common level of appraisal that we just don't have enough appraisers around, or even like we brought one in Putney from Massachusetts. So that's flexible, but at some point people are going to start to see what a market's saying about the value of their homes right now. Not that that raises taxes itself, because supposedly that's supposed to be a wash. If the value goes up, the tax rate goes down. But we're looking at those education taxes as well, and we're going to certainly keep our eye on them and make sure that we do what we can. What I've looked at is one of the biggest pieces of that goes back to cost of health care and the health insurance. Not sure what we can do about that because those contracts are set. But I think big picture, it highlights how healthcare costs continue to climb way past the rate of inflation. I mean, inflation's down close to 3% now. When you see 10, 12, 15% increases in healthcare costs, it's like, you know, how are people supposed to do that? So yeah, I don't have a clear answer yet, but we're going to be watching that for sure.
Any other questions? Any questions?
I've been told.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Well, thank you, and thanks for the opportunity to come and good luck with budget time.
Sure. Thanks very much.
For your information, Mike and Nader have a Zoom session coming up on Saturday at 10 o'clock in the morning to hear from the public in terms of any, not only these issues that he's brought up, but perhaps even more local ones and experiences to hear from the public. And
Sure.
it's very easy to sign up if anybody's interested.
Thank you for that reminder.
Is that
And I want
a one-time?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
we try and do that once a month during the session, and Nader does it around the county, you know, now being a senator. And I should say that Nader is one of the hardest workers there. You know, it's great to have him as part of our county delegation and in the Senate as well. So he's a good guy, he's a hard worker, he's smart, and he's young, so we certainly want the people with the hair a different color than me up there to balance us out, and it's been great to have them there working with us. So we're glad to be able to work with him.
Yes, we have a question.
Excuse me, Mike, I understand that we would sign up for the Zoom by emailing you.
That's right,
Can you
yes.
share your email address?
Sure. MMROWICKI, Mrowicki
Right?
at leg.state.vt.us. And you can look on Facebook, you can look on Front Porch Forum. I posted it on the Dummerston Facebook page as well. So,
Thank you.
all right.
Great, thanks.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Out into the fog.
Okay.
I have two cards.
I
One for him.
So, I guess
You do
let's
tires
circle
too?
back
No.
to ARPA,
Separate question.
Sure.
now that we have fire department members here.
Thank you.
Thank you. You guys
Thank
want to
you.
come up?
Yeah, they'll come on. I brought Paul with me.
Sure. Oh, okay.
Let me get out of your way here.
See you later. Yeah, we'll do.
Okay, so the first item of business would be the ARPA.
Maria, how much did you say that pager was? I'm sorry.
Pagers were 3,454.
Thank you.
Okay. So, just for some background, we allocated money for some projects at the West Dummerston station, and they did not use it all. So that's being returned, and they're making requests for some other items.
To reallocate, yes.
Yeah, to reallocate.
We completed all the work. Just for,
Well,
we didn't not do,
we didn't.
yeah.
There was like mezzanine stuff that was in there, and
Okay.
there was a whole bunch of other work that was in there that was the future mezzanine over it
Okay,
that we thought better use in our meetings. So
Yeah, I would.
get stuff
The
that we
electrical
need
was.
now.
was-
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, our lights are upgraded,
Our lights were upgraded all the way.
and our panel box will be upgraded.
He was waiting on that surge protector.
Yeah,
Okay. How much was returned?
Well, I believe,
Paul,
yeah.
you there?
Yes. Yeah, I'm actually looking to see. My computer decided to take a nap during the interim.
I thought it was 10,555.
Yep, I think
it's
that sounds right.
Yeah,
And it is right.
okay. Okay. So, you have a request for $6,021 for helmets.
Yep, that includes 10 black structural firefighting helmets and 2 white. The only color is so people can tell who you are on the fire ground. That's the only difference. There's no price difference. And right now they're running a promo. If we order before the end of the year, they'll throw in particular hoods for each helmet, which are $125 value. I'm gonna follow up on the shield too. If we can get those for free, I will.
Okay. All right. Okay, so that's one item on the list.
The other one was the electrical panel for $319.38.
Okay,
Which I have that invoice I can send you.
okay,
Finally, it came in.
all right. And then the pagers for $3,454.
Yep.
And how many?
That's 6 pagers and 2 programming fees. They program them in lots of 3. So $27 for each lot of 3 programming.
Okay. Okay.
So that all
And that should completely convert us from the Minotaur 5s that are aging out and we're putting costly repairs into to the entire department having the Minotaur 6s. So hopefully we can get down on our repair bills.
So that's a total of $9,794.38.
Okay. All right. So,
I'll make a motion that we approve the fire department's request for the helmets, electrical panel, and the pagers for a total of $9,794.38 from the ARPA fund.
I'll second that.
okay, any discussion? Yes.
Does this mean then that your request that's in the capital budget
We will take that out of there.
will be taken out? So that would be 7,000 that'll come out of the capital budget.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Technically 9,700.
Well, the budget's only at 7,000, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm at 7.
Okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. All right, let's see. If we can go, let's see, back to new business, and we have sign a new contract for the fire truck.
I'll make a motion that we sign the contract for the new fire truck.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? So that needs to be notarized.
Yes, it does.
So
Who's the notary?
I can go.
No, the town clerk.
Oh, I didn't see her.
She's not here today.
Yeah, I can go there tomorrow.
Okay.
That's that document
I
I
can
sent
do
you.
it tomorrow too if you want, or it's up to you. It's completely up to what you wanna do, because I'm available to do whatever you want.
Okay, that'd be fine.
Okay.
So we just authorize Lewis
Yeah.
to do that. So any other discussion?
Seems like a no-brainer, given discussions at our previous meeting. I think it makes a lot of sense. I appreciate the effort the fire department went through to really carefully examine the needs and reconfigure the truck and go back to the vendor and get them to give us a new truck that'll save some money as well, so really appreciate that.
Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor?
All right.
Aye. All right. Yes?
Before the fire department leaves, do you have a proposed budget yet from the fire department for this next year?
Just came in by
Yeah,
email.
yeah.
5:30. Hour and a half ago.
Okay, okay.
Paul's on Florida time. I don't know what's with him.
Yeah, they,
Toes in the sand.
theoretically, we're on vacation this week. It isn't working out too well for me yet.
What's that?
Yeah.
And will you be having any other discussion on the fire department budget now that you've got it in writing? Or is it speak for itself and the issues that you've already talked about?
Well, we planned on discussing it tonight.
You guys have
that's
time.
if that's okay with you guys.
Your budget.
Yeah, it's sort of hard, sort of hard to do that when we don't have it in front of
we
us.
don't.
I mean, I don't have it. I didn't, because we can't print it out.
Yeah.
Right, so I mean, that would be something.
For this year? Beyond me.
There's one right there, but it's not plugged in.
Be nice to have a chance to look it over.
Right.
Is it? I've printed one copy right here, but I suspect there's 5 of you then.
Well,
I can go make a copy or something.
Yeah, we've got a copier here.
I'll go print a
that's
copy.
why Dan's the man.
Yeah.
Would you make some extra copies for those of us here?
I just don't like being asked numbers questions without the numbers in front of me.
I don't like
It's not a fun
asking
experience.
number of questions without having the
Reading them.
numbers, having had a chance to look at them.
Well, you
But,
can take some comfort in the fact that none of the numbers look strange or very different.
okay.
Larry, you are making extra copies, correct?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Liz.
Well, we're gonna do that in the budget session anyway, so do you wanna continue down on?
Yeah.
Or do we want, I mean,
Nothing.
I think we could
Thank
go
you.
ahead and do it now. We're going to.
okay.
Anyone else that wants?
I forgot the magnifying glass.
I'm gonna save you the paper.
Good man. Here, have 2, you can put them together. Yeah, put them together, right?
So, Paul, you there?
Yes.
So they're all reading down the lines first pass right now, but maybe could you spare them the hunt and peck and give us a summary of what we're looking at?
Yeah, so, as requested in the last meeting that I attended, what I did was essentially took what our spending, our budget for this year, and I looked at how we were tracking towards our budget and applied any changes based on what, cost changes that we've seen. Some highlights of those are energy cost changes because we've made some upgrades to the West Station to make it more efficient with the new doors, which appears to be successfully lowering our heating bill there.
It's been pretty warm this year.
Yeah, and that helps. So the other piece is accounting for that we have a generator now at the center station. So that runs off propane. It is going to run occasionally, not only in outages, but it does a cycle periodically. So taking those things into account, cost increases for things like our internet that we've seen this year, and then looking at what those trends are over the last couple of years and what we are likely to see in the next year with regard to just cost inflation, the cost of telephone, electricity, internet. So, and then with other items, looking at our spending to date, what we've done with regard to things like equipment and station maintenance, our plans, what we've already been able to tackle, and of course, the trending, the unknowns. So any changes you see in maintenance are a combination of what our standard annual inspections are expected to cost, plus, the trends with regard to the unknowns, the unexpecteds, the repairs. And any changes that we've, been able to capture that are already in place for FY25, which honestly I did not identify, since we're still in FY24 and still in calendar year 23, we really haven't seen our calendar 24 rate changes, if any. And I did include some notes just to give you an idea of what was in those lines.
And we can spell out acronyms on the side if you've got questions on what those are.
Is the $10,000 in personal protective equipment line? It says 2 sets of gear. Is that in addition to the gear that you've asked us to put in our capital fund?
Yeah, that would not be separate.
It would be the same.
It would be
So we
one
could-
of the same.
So I really feel like I'd like to be able to go over this, not
Yeah.
right now. And I mean, it's just trying to go over these numbers right now. I think I need to really have time to sit down and look at them.
Yes, I think
Yeah,
that's
that's
important.
And I see no revenue on here either.
Right,
So,
yeah. And I don't, the town's contribution or,
right,
yeah.
yeah, I don't,
These are just expenses, yeah.
yeah.
Yes.
We gave you the revenue last thing from our last fiscal year. The last time we were here.
I mean, I think that's what I'd like to see. I'd like to see the whole budget, soup to nuts, everything, the revenue, so we can actually look it over, go over it, and if you guys wanna come back to the next meeting, and if you can't, the following meeting, you can do it. But I just, to sit here and just go over
No,
these numbers right here, I mean,
Exactly.
But anything like clarification, we added 2 sets of gear here. That would come out of your capital plan.
If we went with this plan.
If we go with this, so it wouldn't be in your capital plan anymore, it would be just here.
Yeah, the reason I included that was because their expenses we're going to incur no matter what. So if we went with that capital plan, that could lead to adjustments in the operating side of our budget. But since those are necessary replacements, they're in operating now.
So, for example, when we had our gear in your capital plan and we didn't come back and renew it last year because we didn't know we had to, you guys took it out and therefore we still need to operate. We can't work on that fluctuation. We're trying to keep our expenses as smooth as they can be for the town, so there's not big increases and decreases. If we can plan out and keep our own capital expenses, then we're just gonna have a smooth line across the board. That's what we're trying for.
so you don't wanna be in our capital budget.
Correct, we wanna keep our own.
That's what the department.
So that we can't, we wanna be as smooth as we can, we wanna be going, we don't want the big increases.
Like the year we're due for air packs, the town.
So you don't want the fire truck in there, you don't want,
Well, that would be the one exception, it would be the fire truck still. Fire truck and our consistent line item every year.
So we can't,
So this is different than what we,
no, it's the same thing, there was just a misunderstanding. I believe, because I wasn't here at all the meetings. So I heard some stuff on this end, I heard some stuff from Paul, and then I talked to Lewis and he said some stuff and I'm like, That doesn't sound like what we talked about. So that's why we requested for everybody to come together to make sure we're all on the same page. That's why I brought that up here, because I don't want, about the gear, I don't want to leave here and not have us all on the same page.
Well, you wouldn't have had us on the same page. I mean, this, it was a complete curveball
Yeah.
from what I had thought had agreed upon. And the whole thing, I mean, and one thing with what you said about last year, I can sit here and say last year the fire department sat, and it was actually this year, and boldface lied to the whole town and got the voters to vote an extra $100,000. I'm not saying it's you guys, but I'm saying the fire department sat right over there and lied to the townspeople's faces, saying there was no second option. You guys come in here and you're showing us the second option. The gear that you're talking about wasn't even on the budget for last year, on the capital budget for last year.
It was on a 5-year plan though, 4 years ago, and you guys removed it without saying one word to the fire department.
I don't
And
know.
it was in our budget last year.
Do you remember that, Zeke?
I don't remember taking it out. I don't remember sitting here. and
But you
saying,
remember the 5-year plan?
I vaguely remember we were going to budget over several years.
And I think if you looked at the way the town has been doing the capital budget, is the way we were discussing it, I don't know whether you were here or not, Leon, was talking about doing it, was it's going to be right there. You will get that capital budget sheet every year. You would see what is there. The select board is not going to come in. They may come to you and say, look at how much is it? Do you need to adjust it to a higher amount? Because those numbers can always be adjusted.
Right.
And it just, to me, I don't feel comfortable just giving you guys the money. If you don't use it for that, what are you might use it for something else. You've got to understand, there's still, as far as I'm concerned, and you guys have done a real lot to curb it, but there is still a trust issue.
Right.
And so for you to sit here and think that it's just like that ARPA funding, that extra 10,000. We would have never known about that if you guys weren't honest and came up and said that. As far as we knew, that was spent on what it was supposed to be spent on. You guys were honest enough to come up and tell us that, we didn't use it. But on this budget, this stuff here, if it's not used or it comes in less, where are you going to do it? You're going to say, well, that's in our capital budget. We can use it for whatever we want.
Not what we want, what we need.
What?
I mean,
That's the same.
and the plan is, like we told all the taxpayers, is to come every fall with our budget, with our bank statements, with everything that we brought you this year, every year, and show where the money went. If it got put away, that's not a bad thing for interest. Start accruing the cost for the air packs, stuff like that. You're gaining interest on it. You're not paying interest on it, and you're not hitting the taxpayers with $180,000 this year, $20,000 this year, $200 this year, $140,000 this year. Which is kind of how the capital plan works with the town. You're seeing a 45% increase this year.
I think,
Do you guys have the overall budget?
let's go back just a little bit really quick. Let's just circle back to really what we're talking about. You have the 10,000 for the plugger gear.
Yep.
Because you say you want to run your capital budget. Why don't you have the 15,000 for portable radios, the 10,000 for the paint, and the 6,000 in the turnout gear in here? We just also asked for this.
I was trying to step in there when Leon was talking there. So this is not a capital expense. So because it is a near-term expense that is planning to happen, because we need to replace those, it's in our operating budget for FY25. If we were talking about the capital plan, our full 10, 15, 20-year capital plan, that is a separate item. It is not reflected. This is an operating budget.
Right. And the way we ended the last meeting with you was, in fact, we would take over the capital budget for you guys with Paul on the phone.
Yeah, Paul, could you,
And-
So
take over that.
I'll let you finish your question.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I explained that after our conversation, I took what we discussed back to the membership, and obviously I can't agree to anything on my own, so that's something that needs to go back to the membership and discuss. And as you've heard, they have some questions.
Sure.
So we're still trying to come to terms with what that means for the department long term. And as you also know, every member has a vote in whatever we do. So the department has to agree to this en masse. So it's something that even when the three of us are sitting here, two sitting there, me in ether.
Four of us stands here.
Yeah, sorry, Dan. So taking, this is something that no matter what, has to impact the members.
Right, so, okay, maybe agreement was the right term. There's a lot of confusion during the call. And what was clarified at the end was, we think we should take over your capital expenses. You guys work your operating expenses. And then he went back there. So what you're telling us is the fire department does not agree to that.
So, so I think I'd like to, maybe we could like turn these over and have a little like philosophical discussion that's not about the specific numbers.
Oh yeah, and I'm not, all I'm saying to you is the fire department has decided that they do not agree with what the select board thinks we should do.
So at the last pass, I think you're right. Yes, I'm getting to the yes, and like I'd like to try to explain how we got there. So the last number, and I'm sorry, I also missed a meeting because I had COVID and was home, but the last numbers I saw, they were like ballpark, like 80 and 30 something, right? It was like a 50 and 30 something, I think.
That's what you told me, right? There was an operating
50
contribution,
operating, 30.
similar scale to what we have, and a capital contribution, those two items. And we took those numbers back and said, at the last meeting, this is what the town has proposed. They'd like to, steer town dollars towards funding the department through the capital budget. And we had a long discussion about, well, how do we fund the other, how are we going to fund the difference in our operating budget? If we are expecting that we're going to have
that was
$100,000, we don't think we can raise that. And so the department's posture in response to your proposal was that we're going to, under this regime, this proposal regime, we're going to run at a deficit, and we're going to just wind down the 150 we have by 40 a year, 45 a year, 50 a year, 55 a year, as our expenses go up, and our ability to fundraise is finite.
But then, can I just say something to this? This was with Paul.
Mm-hmm.
Was the fact that you guys, the way we came up with the number that I gave you, what did you write down, the 30 and the 80?
Something like that.
Something like that?
30-50.
30-50.
Yeah.
The way we came up with that was because we asked Paul, and Paul had said, you guys already have a capital budget. And we said, well, if you're in our capital budget, you won't need your capital budget. So how much do you have in your capital budget so we can use some of that, just like you're saying you're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
We were going to do it where you took out so we wouldn't give you the full amount because some of that would come out of your capital budget because you wouldn't need it anymore because you'd be on the town capital budget.
Sure. So we talked about that, and the result of that is, we have this money that the nonprofit organization owns that has been gifted to us through fundraising, charitable donations, through estates that died and left us money in their will. And if we're being asked to take that money that's been given, bequeathed to the nonprofit fire department, and it's going to be offsetting what the town feels like its liability is. I guess
we're lost somewhere because that's not what we were asking. We asked Paul what you have in your capital budget. Now, if you have all that money in the capital budget, you were planning on spending it on capital funds. So we asked him what you had in your capital budget right now because you won't need a capital budget if you go on to the town's capital budget. So nowhere do we say take your money from your fundraisers unless that is in your capital budget, which you've already planned to spend on capital funds.
I think we should, I'd like to let Paul
there's
try to answer.
a bit of terminology, I think, crisscross here. So what I shared was the balance within our capital funds. So that's money that we've been attempting to build over time to satisfy the future capital obligations. That does not reflect our actual capital budget, which is those future expenses that we actually need to satisfy. What that is just as I mentioned in our meeting, a very small fraction of what we would need to satisfy those obligations in the future. So that is those are the balance, what I gave you is the balance of those funds.
That's all the money we have.
That's, yes, all the money we have.
So when he said capital funds, that's just what we have in the bank. It's not what we have set aside for other
Well,
stuff.
he gave them those too, right, Paul? Did give them separation, right?
Yeah, so we have it funded based on general purpose, the capital building fund, the water source fund, so those funds were created historically, in order to allocate, funds towards those future capital purchases. They are not reflective of need, they're reflective of what we've been able to put there. So but I did share those balances because, and again, that is all the money we have in our savings.
So I think the question is like, if our budget is $110,000 and the town was gonna propose to pitch in 50, and we think we can net fundraise 30, well, that's 80. Where
No,
would we
30,
get
the 30
balance
was
from?
what we were taking from your capital, which you said for your capital expenditures.
But this sum on this tab, so maybe we should flip our pages back over, is excluding capital purchases is $110,000. It costs us $110,000 if we don't buy capital equipment. If we buy no capital equipment, it costs us $110,000.
So if we're
But you
trying to
got-
run on 80,000, then we would be
But
negative.
you've got radios in here for 3,500. You've got,
That doesn't even buy a single radio.
So what that is so our radios,
radio
because they're very
repair.
old, we have to fix them. We have to repair them all the time. And the batteries, we have to replace all the time. So that's what that is. That's repair and
It's
replacement.
maintenance.
I guess really at this point, I myself have to go over these numbers and, I have to look at it and I'm just not,
No, we understand. We just want you to be clear of what everything means.
That without buying any what the town would call capital equipment, we spend $110,000 maintaining the fire department that we currently have with no new purchases. And so that was what the fire department understood. The town, we didn't bring that and explain that well up to maybe hopefully this moment. But what they're concerned, knowing what they know, is that if the town is going to pitch in 50 and we can fundraise net 30, where does the rest come from? And so it was their understanding, our understanding in that room was that, well, then that means we're being asked to wind down the cash reserves that we do have. Or that's where it was the impression that, we were being asked to contribute the donations that people make to the
terminology. Right, is what it is because when we talked to Paul, it was capital money that we were given.
And do you have that number, Paul? Of just capital?
I can pull it up.
I think it's 180K.
No.
Oh no, I'm thinking of what they have in their funds.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
And that's before we pay our 30.
The capital for this year was 32, is what you guys asked for originally.
No, I'm asking what they
What we
have.
actually have in our capital account,
Right.
which would be the.
Opening it now. So, as at the end of November, these are the balances in our funds. This is what I read off, so I'll read them off again. Our forest fire fund is 3370. Our billable incident fund, 5727. Our PPE fund.
little slower. There's some people writing those down.
Okay. Our PPE fund, 23,848. Our apparatus fund, 20,252. Our capital building fund, $746. Our capital equipment fund, $8,957. Our rescue fund, $1,451. And our water source fund, $2,125.
How much was that last one?
2,125.
What was the 5721?
What was the 5721?
That's right after the forest fire.
Oh, billable incident. It's 5727.
All right.
Is there a total at the bottom of that for save people a calculator?
And also got, let's see, I'll have to take out the general fund balance, so hold on a second.
So right now, we have this all broken down individually. We're planning on combining it to try to build better interest. Because right now, we're like nothing for interest, but we can combine it.
Well,
We'll sell track.
we're in the same gross interest,
Yeah.
but we're
66,477.
for the ease of managing our budget, we're gonna just consolidate those various capital budgets into one single line. That's just fire department capital budgets. You know, we still
And
have.
Sorry,
go
I
ahead.
think Leon was mentioning, because we have these funds literally in separate bank accounts, which is just a historical structure that we've maintained. You're able to get more interest if you consolidate. You know, the higher your balance, the more the banks are paying. So we're not achieving the most advantageous interest rate because our money is spread across multiple accounts. So as Leon was mentioning, we're gonna consolidate this to earn a little bit better. Interest rates are much better now, that'll help. But we are, with regards to how it's allocated and what are, whether these balances align with our needs, that's a separate issue, which I can say easily they don't.
So I don't know if like that last sort of turn of the cog felt like anything to anybody, but like, this whole sheet that got photocopied for you guys is non-capital expenses. This is what it costs us to run the department if we buy nothing new. And so that's why I think that was really the impetus for why the fire department has needed to invest so much of our and your time to try to get on the same page, is that you could see that what you had contributed last year and what we fundraised didn't, we were squeaking by or on the benevolence of some luck, and in
Just for operating.
recent years we had not been. This past year we got some lucky donations. Well, 2 or 3 years running before that we did not, and ran at a loss. And so we're just looking down at trying to figure out how do we cover just this number.
And a sustainable future for the fire department.
So you'd like to take, so we have 38,000 in our capital budget for you this coming fiscal year.
It'll be 31, because we took out ARPA.
Okay, well, I can count that. Okay. And then, we're proposing $50,000 as a line item. And so you'd like another,
65,000.
no.
To come up to 115. That's what they want to come up to.
Is that what you're asking us for?
80 to 110 is not.
110, I see 115.
That was 2024.
Okay, all right, so to 110, so 60,000.
So our trade-off, like one of the other, just to give you more insight on the discussion.
Let me just get
Sure.
clear. So the 50,000 that's already in our line item, the 38,000 in capital expenses, and then an additional,
The capital's
That's
out of
30.
account. It's not
50.
60. He's right. We want to give him 50, they want 115.
No, they want 110. because-
110, whatever the number is.
Right, so it's,
You
So
don't,
38 doesn't count at all.
so
Right.
30,
but wiping out the 31, it's only, well, I shouldn't say it's only, I understand it's a lot of money. But Paul, did you figure out what that means to the taxpayers?
Oh, so no, I did not ahead of this meeting. So, but just to clarify,
number
just to
is
make
what?
sure, because I heard a few different things there.
So
So
this is 50 plus 65.
the sheet that you have
This is
has our
10,
FY '24
110.
budget, which is 115. Then it has the FY '25 proposal in 2 different forms. One is if we still had the fundraise, and hopefully achieve those goals. And the 110 is this is the straight what it costs to run the department without the need to allocate funding for fundraising. So it's really the fully funded budget is what the 110,284.
And then any,
I think I need a paper bag.
well, and then any fundraising we would put into our capital reserves to make those capital purchases. Is our
So
logic
what our thought is, if we can give the town a streamlined budget, our fundraising that we put into the capital reserves ourselves, we can work with a little up and down on fundraising from year to year.
because capital purchases go up and down a little.
Like, and we could say, well, we can't afford a new truck this year, we can't afford breathing apparatus this year, let's put it off till next year when we can earn more funds. But our everyday budget, we can't put off.
But that's a significant change to what we've talked about, or you've thrown another wrinkle into this.
No,
Yeah, you have. You said, you just said you're gonna use your fundraising efforts to build your capital fund, and that has never been discussed at this point. That's the first this has come up.
okay.
Because what we had was, and agreeing that fundraising is up and down, I understand that. And that you guys are being asked to provide 40% of your operating budget from fundraising. But what we've talked about before was, you came up with a budget, you took fundraising out of it as part of your revenue, and then the town contribution, and then we tried to get to the final number. The idea that we're just gonna pay your entire operating budget, and you're gonna build a capital budget out of your fundraising has not been discussed before.
Okay, I apologize. So,
Yeah,
and again, when I had the conversation with Lewis, and he was bringing up stuff that had been talked about when I wasn't here, and with Paul, when none of us were here, I was like, I can't answer that, because I knew there was a lot of confusion, and that's why I wanted us all to come together and talk about it, because I want to be upfront and have everybody on
And
the
the
same
other
page.
piece of that is, yes, that's kind of our plan as of right now, but we don't know what the future brings for fundraising either.
Sure.
So there may come a time down the road where we have to ask for a little bit more for a line item to cover capital purchases, such as things. But our goal, we're not lazy people, as Paul had said in the former meeting. We try our hardest to go out and do the fundraisers and do that, and we'll put them away as much as we can towards that capital plan. But there may come a time where we need to ask for a little more. I don't want to bury us in a hole saying we're always going to do fundraising and it's always going to be this and we're never going to ask for more.
So to answer your questions real quick, to go back. So the budget we're currently working, which is not the final budget, we're all working, is about a 23.5% raise. Adding that extra $60,000 moves it up to 30%. So it's a full 7% addition to the tax rate for that additional 60 grand, if you want to know what the net effect is.
And what does that mean to the average taxpayer? Do you have that up?
I can tell you what it would mean to be.
That increase.
It would
Be about
mean,
$60.
it would be about $100 a year.
And for you,
For me,
how many 100,000 Charles worth?
for something.
So it's 100. So it's about.
We're at about $1.
$25,000. $25 a thousand.
It would go from mine would go from 360 to 460 for the year.
So $25 a thousand, right? Basically, if it's $100 a year, 400,000. So it's about $25 a 100,000. So for me, where my house is at 170,
Yeah.
it's gonna be less than $50. I mean, I don't know what anybody else's house is valued at. It'll all be,
The problem with doing that, I mean, that's a nice way to look at it, or to think about looking at it, is that's that. Then you've got the library asking for theirs. You've got this person so it all adds up.
Yeah.
So to sit
we're all
there and try to
taxpayers.
say that, oh, this is only going to cost you this much. I mean,
that's why I
this-
was hesitant with the only word.
Right, I
And
mean-
we get it. We're taxpayers too, right?
Right. It's
All of us here are taxpayers as well.
But it's one of those things. It's hard to
You be
use
quiet. We're
words.
not. No. Go ahead, Paul.
One thing I stressed when I talked to the select board on my own, and I'm sure you all remember, is, the increasing burden that, training and required certifications and things like that are putting on the membership. And it's making it much more difficult to allocate that time to fundraising. Our capital, our fund drive is on net the most successful, which is essentially we go to the taxpayers directly and say, please donate. Everything from there earns a fraction on net. it's an incredible amount of work to really raise a small fraction of our operating budget, and it's getting harder every year, and those margins are going down every year. So it's it's not sustainable.
So let me ask,
That's where the department's getting concerned.
And none of them gave us one, though.
I just want to ask one more question before I ask if we can just do this at a different time. So in other words, you're telling me that the Scott packs or whatever the packs that are due in 27, 28, you want us to take right off here, and you guys are going to pay that 170,000, so the taxpayers aren't going to be on the hook for that.
That's correct.
And how are you going to,
How
A
are you
little
gonna
bit
do
of
that?
magic, a
Fundraising.
little twiddle our nose, twinkle our ears.
no, don't play around.
No, I'm not playing with you. I'm not playing with you.
I just don't understand.
Because
I
2
don't-
meetings ago, you guys were gonna move away from any fundraising whatsoever.
Yeah, I just don't
I mean-
understand. I don't understand. I guess I don't
Well, saying
understand
it's
it.
not sustainable.
It's
It's
just,
not that we're backing away from it.
No, I understand that.
I just don't understand. I guess I don't understand. I mean, that's one thing. If you're going to get rid of all this money that we were talking about, like next year, 35,000, 35 the following year, 170, 75, and I mean, you're talking over 190, almost $190,000 in 27, 28, you're talking, and then then the very next year, you're talking about 80,000. I don't see where, that's back-to-back years. I don't see where you're gonna have that kind of fundraising and not come back to the town and ask the town for that if we don't put it in.
Yeah, maybe I was a little too firm in my initial response there, but one of the documents we brought out at the first meeting we came to was a comparison of the other towns around us, and I might encourage you to revisit that and speak with your counterparts in the other towns and ask them, how big is your fire department as a function of your town? How do you guys fund it? Do you do capital plans or do you do single contribution? And bend their ear and get
And
thinking on
then
it.
with no disrespect to that, I think you should go back to your fire department and say, listen, we're show them these capital expenditures on top of what we give you towards your operating costs, and say, are we really wanting to get out of this? And I mean, I just don't see it with the numbers that you have, even in the bank. You guys said, you guys are trying to draw that number down on us. You just drew it down in 2 years. 2 years. You don't have any, less than 2 years, 1 year, because was it 180,000?
Mm-hmm. Honestly, the best thing for this fire department is to let us take over the capital stuff. Honestly, it's a little short-sighted of all of you to not have it in the town's capital plan and to think that you're gonna manage it
Let me ask
through
a question.
fundraising.
So I may be misinterpreting how you do your capital plan. So I was under the impression that you guys have a $200,000 bank, and every year you try to stop at 200 or finish. And you don't have anything in the bank, is that true?
No, we have.
No.
This is what we have. We'll have 400,090, this is
After you make your purchases.
after we make our purchases, that's what we'll have. And so we try to keep it at balance going forward of at least 200,000.
Okay.
We're trying to fudge a little this year and maybe have 185,000. But depending on, Lee,
Right.
road foreman will give us, when he wants trucks.
Yeah, the year we're working.
Of course, he has got 90,000 in there. We know it's going to, the prices, he can't give us an exact price 5 years out, but we can begin building up the fund, so we know what to ask the voters for at town meetings, so we can, increase this. So you guys would come in, like Lee, and give us a list of what purchases you want, and when you need them, and when you want them, and you give us your best guess of what it will cost. And then we put that into the budget, and we raise the taxes to make sure that we can afford your, turnout gear plus, Lee's dump truck, and still have money in the fund going forward in case something
Unexpected.
unexpected comes up. And that could be something with the fire department unexpected. and you come to us and you say, well, that's a capital expense, and
So every year, when you guys come to us with your budget, you will have a copy of this and you'll say, I mean, it's nothing that says you can't go in there and say, okay, guess what, guys? In 28, 29, we realized we needed this also to add something. As long as we have ahead of time, we can start budgeting more that has to be raised by taxes. To sit there and, I mean, I just.
So,
I understand how that's like a very valid long-term strategy for capital purchases. And our concern is more, are we making a trade to secure our long-term purchases in the future at the expense of creating a new short-term problem for ourselves? You know, we're not going to be here in 5 or 6 years if we operate at a $40,000 a year operating deficit, because we'll take our 180 or whatever that number was that Paul read out earlier, and we'll just start winding it down to meet our operational expenses.
Well, we were told you had $17,000 surplus from last year. So we thought, okay, we'll put all these items in the capital budget. You guys could use that $17,000 surplus for your operating expenses, and the town would, as a line item, put in $50,000. So,
May I step in? That's still a $2,000 loss, because if you go back 3 years, it was 19 in the red.
You would have been spending your own money on capital expenses, you know, the pagers, you know, there's $2,000. The town will pick that up. So you guys, you know,
If the town votes on that too. I mean, I'm not saying, you know, that's, I mean, because every one of these items is going to come up in front of the taxpayers and they're going to say, you know, can we, and
if they don't, and it's air packs, what's their
the town has
plan?
never said no to the fire department.
and I mean, and we have more money in there. I mean, it's just, I guess I'm just baffled by, you guys sitting here saying.
2025 for our operating deficit.
But you.
Well, you could come and say, geez, we're running behind, instead of the
We know we
instead of the
are.
50.
We're sitting here right now.
But he just said you had $66,000 in
your capital budget.
capital budget, which you shouldn't need when you were in this capital budget.
I see there's.
So that there's
No,
sort of
that's
like
a
a
different
trade
definition.
here where we're being asked, correct me if I'm wrong, to wind that down to a floor level of something.
Your capital budget.
But if I think what they're saying, now, most of the fire department is on one way of thinking and you guys are on a different, and that's what we're trying to merge together, which is why we all wanted to come together.
Yeah.
So if we go to the town's capital plan, then you're saying we won't need our capital budget anymore.
Right.
And we can use that we can merge that into our.
So that saves that we burn $66,000 by shifting it over to participate that way. But then in 3 years,
You come to the town and say, you know, $60,000, $50,000 doesn't cut it anymore. We're going to need, our operating expenses have gone up and we're going to need more money.
And I'm not even saying this year. This was just one of these things where we were looking at the budget and where it was, how high it was, and said, you know what? Can we get it down some here by them using some of their own money? It doesn't mean that next year's budget, we don't know where next year's budget is going to be, how much we'd ask the fire department to put in there. That's a year-to-year thing. I just think you keep saying, oh, you're gonna make us work it down over 5 years. You've eliminated it. I can guarantee you eliminated it right there in 27, 28. You've eliminated 180,000. I don't care how much fundraising you do. If you're doing it at the rate you're doing it.
Yeah,
We'll have to do more to get to that one.
No, what Louis said it makes sense. That's why I wanted us all to be here, because what he said makes sense, because
yeah, I understand that. I think the scale of capital asks that are on that sheet that you guys have from us for the first time is very different from what has ever been done before, other than the trucks.
Right.
And so we didn't know with any certainty whether that was going to be embraced in full or laughed out the door to say 170 in Scott.
I think we tried to say that from the very first meeting, that we said, let's get you guys on in here, because at the meetings at the Grange, it was brought up, and it just it makes sense to be not paying interest. I mean, because we'd have to take a loan. If you came out to us and said, okay, in 27, 28, we need 170,000. I mean,
We don't want to take loans.
well, that's what I'm saying. That's why if it's here, you don't have to. But if you didn't come to us until 27, 28, and you said, oh, well, we got to raise this in taxes, it's like, wait a minute, we'd still have to raise it into taxes, but that's a lot of money.
Right.
That's a lot of money. And here, we do it over the years to get up to that point.
And the number we're going to ask the voters to approve in March, it's already considering, the number we came up with considers that 170,000 that you're going to need in 27, 28. We're going to ask the voters to start paying for that then. Of course, they'll be able to vote on it in 27.
That's the year that it will actually come up on the warning,
Because-
saying that it's for this and for, not to exceed this amount. So that's why when it says not to exceed this amount, you guys have to go and find out what that amount is, because when the voters
Yeah.
vote for it, don't want to exceed it.
So yearly, we'd have to check the prices
Yeah,
and
right.
update them.
We have to finalize the budget at the end of January. So, if you know that the price at the end of December has gone up 5%, then you need to tell us so we can adjust the number.
Okay. So,
Yeah, can I kind of like try to ask a couple questions to understand like what our multi-year path is? So if all of the capital purchases go into the town budget and the 66,000 gets moved from the fire department's capital budget to fill the gap on its operating budget for this 25, what are we gonna do for 26? Is it the expectation of the town as you sit here today, knowing that that's a decision for
So
another year?
bear in mind that you were gonna use your fundraising for your proposal is we pay the operating budget, and you were gonna use fundraising for capital. So if your 66 disappears this year, which it would, right? What are you doing with your fundraising money? Are you gonna fundraise again, or is fundraising money off the charts for operating expenses? Because you didn't add that back in for next year. So I mean, if you're
Yeah.
raising 18 or 20 or 25,000 a year, previously you've been using that as part of the revenue operating budget.
Yeah.
What's gonna happen with that next year? Because we're taking your capital stuff.
Yeah, so that's a good question. I mean, that does kind of get to the heart of what one of the fire department's concerns was like, well, in this relationship, is there any basis for the fire department to accrue any improvement? If we win a $500,000 donation, is the town going to turn off the water to contribute to the operating budget?
Boy, I had
And
this
say
discussion
like,
before.
we'll wait a
So,
little while.
I want to be perfectly clear that if I gave you $25,000 out of my money for the fire department, I did not give it to the town.
Yeah.
It's as long as I'm sitting here, that the donations that come to you specifically to the fire department is none of my business. That's me. Because if the town suddenly decided to cut your budget, the amount of money that I gave to the fire department, they're essentially saying I gave the money to the town, which I didn't do.
Right.
So that's me. I can't speak for the rest of them, but that's not really part of this conversation. But I just really want to know for your fundraising efforts.
Yeah, that's where the 66,000 came from.
If that's, then, that, I guess that has to be addressed. But just to go back real quick, your normal fundraising stuff, your letter, your golf tournament, your barbecue, your pancake breakfast. Previously, that has been a part of your revenue that offsets what we give you. It's a tough way to do business, I understand.
But for capital purpose, right?
No, it's been
no, it's
operating.
Operating, it's about 40% of their operating budget comes from fundraising, which I understand is hard to do. It's not smooth. You're not gonna get that much every year. I understand that.
Yeah.
But next year, like you say, if the 66 goes away, because it makes up, I'm not saying it's going to, it makes up the operating shortfall this year.
Yeah.
Your fundraising stuff in 25, 26, what are you doing with that money?
Well, that's only half of that 66.
Right, so this is a good question, right? So this is that question.
No, the
of, like,
66 is gone.
do we keep it and buy TVs and couches, or does it go into the operating expenses? I mean, I think that's one of the lack of trust.
Well, it's just a change of plan. And I'm new, but I looked at the sheets, and previously there was part of your revenue was your fundraising, and then the rest of it was filled by the town. So that fundraising has to go somewhere. you proposed using it to build your capital budget, but we're like, how about you just don't do that and we'll take the capital.
Yeah, so in that instance, like, what does a nonprofit with no expenses do with its fundraising, right? Like, training, improvements, solar panels, like things that are like not core capital purchases are the types of improvements we could try to do as the fire department.
No, I would think that your fundraising would go to your operating expenses.
As it has in the past.
Yeah.
Just like it has always.
So what happens when we continuously run at a deficit and you guys?
You have to come and ask for more money.
So-
50,000,
So
we're
let's just-
proposing 50,000 this year. It's,
So that is the
So let's
That
just
is
say,
the question.
let's just say, we've decided, not notionally, right, that we're gonna give you 110, or we're gonna give you 50,000 this year, in 25. And you have to fill a hole with your general fund 66. So now you come back next year, that's gone, you don't have that. You come back, just go, our expenses are $150,000. Just make up a number, 125, somewhere in the region. During the course of this upcoming year, what are you doing with your fundraising money from your letter, your pancake breakfast, your barbecue? Where is that money going, and then where's it going to go the following year? Because we're taking your capital expenses and your
it's not something we've talked about, at any length, because what we've just all unpacked right here is very different. So
And that's something that I think I brought up to you guys at one point, like, with upgrades. Like, we wanna either put a small shed off the side of the center station or put in a shed for storage, because we don't have any place to store stuff. So right now, we have no way to account for that. So,
Or crew.
I'd go with a capital budget.
well, that's something we can talk about. That's why we're here, because,
Yeah.
so previously, now, and I'm speaking for myself, and I think most of us, but not, so previously, you didn't see any of us here, right? You only saw one person.
No, we saw
Two people.
before, we've seen multiple people. Okay, we had an agreement with a whole bunch of the, fire department on the budget, and then they went to the town meeting and got up and asked for more money. I mean, after they sat at this table and agreed with the board on what we were going to do.
None of us.
None of you folks, but the fire department.
Right, so a lot of that wasn't conveyed back to us as to what, like, the relationship was with the town. So there was a lot of,
And that's part of why we've decided we're coming in person. There's not gonna be the
we wanna work
Yeah.
through all the niches and,
out in the open.
But I guess my biggest thing, and you guys might as well go back, I don't know when you have your next meeting and stuff, but I would sort of almost want you guys to do it before that, so you can come back to our next meeting and find out if you're willing. I mean, I thought it was, I guess ignorance on my part, thought that you guys had already talked to the department and you had come to the agreement that you were gonna do it this way. And
you know,
I think that's why when I saw this budget and see these numbers,
unfortunately, we can only meet once a month to discuss this. But I am gonna strongly encourage you to visit us on the 9th, to help people understand where you're coming from. And not just you, but anybody that wants to come. So that we can get through all the questions.
Right.
Like, we wanna work together with you.
I think my hunch is that we would trade the 66,000 that we currently have to fill a shortfall in our operating expenses in exchange for participating in that capital budget that we've laid out.
But you gotta also take into consideration, when you're saying taking all that 66,000 for this thing, you're still gonna have your fundraiser for that year. Because you're still gonna have, in like, what was last year, like 30,000. So instead of thinking of, we're gonna lose all our money, we're gonna go down to zero, you're still gonna have your fundraiser, which last year, and I'm not saying it's gonna be that, it could be more, it could be less. So but you got the 30,000 that you're gonna be there, so you're not taking all of your money.
Yeah.
So I can't speak for the department, obviously, but I would propose that our fundraising that we do next year would go into our account, and we could again address that at the next budget cycle. Is that a fair way to look at it?
What do you mean your account? What do you say, your private one?
No, this,
The operating expenses?
so right now we have this
Yeah, general
66,000. Yeah, that we're talking about trading off for that.
So essentially, we're looking at is this year being somewhat of a transition year.
Yes.
So we're going to eat away your 66 to keep stuff down for the residents.
Right.
And next year, we're gonna come back here and see what your operating expense budget is.
See how much we have left.
And our capital budget will look very similar to what it does right now,
It's
but
gonna look like
one
maybe
year over.
115, you know, our operating doesn't change.
Be on the town's
Right.
capital budget.
Right. So I apologize for missing a couple meetings. I
No,
work
that's fine.
crazy hours, but I'm glad you showed me that and were able to clarify that a little bit.
Yeah.
I know people hate hearing this, but I came from New Hampshire and the budgets work a little different over there and the laws are
There's
different.
a lot of things different.
Yeah, Dan actually
Murky
explained that to
water.
me at one office, one of the meetings.
Murky
He's like,
water over there.
Yeah,
The,
well,
yeah, this is on our website. If you go
yeah,
under the
It's
select
reposted,
board,
it's
you'll
posted.
see capital budget. We update it as we make changes. So,
And then I remember previously at a meeting, you said like things wouldn't be included on the capital purchases, like such as portable pumps that we, you know, minuscule amounts. Maria said that at one meeting that, you know, if we had a portable pump come up for repair and it wasn't on the capital plan, you guys would just have to buy something like that. But with this plan, we don't have any way to build funds to buy stuff like that.
That's why you put it, if you have a pump that you're looking at, you put it out here. So you say your life of your pump,
But we were told we shouldn't do that 3
Yeah.
meetings ago.
that's what this capital
I
budget
think that
does.
was maybe a misunderstanding.
That's what the capital budget is if you have a piece of equipment that has a lifespan on it, you would say, okay, that this is supposed to last me 8 years. 8 years from now, you put it under that there.
Yeah.
so you said we can always just push it back, but we can't add it closer.
Right.
You can add closer. It could be.
But we can't add it in general. I guess that was a
It's a lot more heartache to add it closer.
Right. Right.
Yes, you could add it closer, but
In
you
an
can't,
event of
add it, you would be adding
In the
it
middle of
after
the
it
fiscal
broke
year.
it.
Right.
You know, after it broke, so that's when you come and say, you know, here's what the problem is.
So, and some of this stuff is the confusion and terminology that we had to work through, to be able to figure out how you are, you know, work.
Paul, anything to add?
10 and 15.
Is he even awake?
Paul took a nap. He said he took a nap, but I think it was Paul.
No, his feet are in the sand still.
It's just AI.
I'm on board.
He's
So,
tired.
obviously, you know, one of
His
the
voice
things that
sounds
I
a little
wanted to mention is when I got a chance was one of the that came out of the meeting after I relayed everything that we had discussed in our meetings back to the membership was there was that concern with that drawing down our funds because the town of Dummerston runs on essentially a two approval process. First, you go to the taxpayers for approval to build the fund, and then you go to the taxpayers for approval to use it. And the fear was if we draw down our fund, we put everything into the town's hands, and you're building that fund over time.
You're doing that anyways. You're doing that anyways. I mean, if we went to the town right now and said, we're not giving them anything, you could go and petition and ask the town to give it, and the town could still vote you down. So, I mean, you're doing it no matter what. The town, you're,
But historically, the town has never voted.
it's gotten awful close though lately.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way.
Yeah,
because-
and that's what I think makes a lot of us.
Yeah.
But that's because of people were catching on, to what
But that
was happening over
exists,
there.
that exists regardless of where the capital fund's at.
Right,
Right? If that's the sentiment, it's getting that way. It's there regardless of where your capital
Right,
is.
right.
Well, we're trying to correct that.
Yeah. You do.
So it's just like I said, it's just one of those things is, I wouldn't be as concerned about that as I think you guys are. I think you're missing something that I'm not explaining, and I'll go home and I'll look it up and I'll figure out and I'll get back to you. I have a way of doing that. You know?
You're just gonna go to the fifth graders again. I know how you.
I know. They were sixth graders this time I went to, and they figured it out.
Is the issue the level of control? You know, where a 501c3 that controlled its own budget could make a midstream change really easily.
Well, that is very hard for a lot of the department is to give up control.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's always been a hard thing for everybody. So, but I mean, as long as we're working together, and I'm speaking for myself, not for the department, because I can't speak for the department solely, but I mean, as long as we're working together and there's no, like, again, there was a miscommunication with the gear, right? So, and that got pulled.
Yeah.
So as like what you guys are saying, where, you know, there was some trust issues, obviously it happened on us, but there was other people involved that aren't here. So we're trying to kind of
Yeah, and I think working
build
together
things
is
back.
really key because there might be funding opportunities that are open to you as a 501c3 where you can get funding for something that would be in a capital budget.
Yeah, there are FEMA programs that exist
Yeah.
only for fire departments.
Right, like the Scott packs, I'm sure,
And I
if
don't
you guys look into them when you
and I-
get closer to it.
Excuse me. I wouldn't want the fire department to say, well, the capital budget is now in the town's hands. We don't need to think about these grants anymore. You know, I think we need to work as
Oh,
a
yeah.
team.
So-
Because there are things that you can get funding for that we can't.
So from the 5 of us that are here, Dave's still here, we would never say not think about a grant. Just like that's something that we're big on. Paul is an exceptionally good grant writer. Dan's exceptionally good at that. So like we got a couple people that can work at that.
I don't know that the packs are an option because we got a grant form last time, and I think that was one of the stipulations is we were supposed to be putting money away.
But you guys will keep looking
Yeah,
for
so-
grants, I think
so
is the
that-
point.
Yeah, we're gonna keep looking for grants for everything. Like, and whatever we can do to get grants. Like, again, we're all taxpayers too. We don't want our taxes to go through the roof. It's one of the reasons I moved over here. You know?
I mean, our biggest, like the FEMA AFG, the Assistance for Firefighter Grant Program, we put in applications every year for that. It's highly competitive. You know, it has stipulations like they do not pay for things more than once, and they don't pay for things that they feel that you should be planning for on your own. They're very big on enhancing capacity and capability. You know, helping. A lot of these grant programs are, you know, AFG is one of them, are around helping departments achieve a next stage that they can't do on their own because of tax-based limitations, because of, you know, especially with the small towns. It's like, as they understand that the needs and the demands on the department or equipment is getting more expensive, things are asked more of, or where requirements, or testing requirements, or gear age requirements, or when they change the standards, they're really geared towards helping departments jump that hurdle, that burden that's been put on them. They're very bad at filling holes in your operating budget. They're very bad at providing a capacity for replacing break-fix type of equipment. So we've really, the last couple years, have tried to use these programs as best we can to fill those kind of break-fix holes and have not met with success. I think we'll find as we try to utilize these programs, they will be much better if we use them as they're designed, which is to help the department grow in capability and capacity. So we certainly, you know, I work in nonprofit, I am a grant writer, and you want to continue to do that for the department, but you know, I just want to express that much of these programs they're not really designed to try to fill the operating hole.
He's made his point.
So I just like at least one more question.
Yeah.
I want to know what we're agreeing on to talk to our fire department. Well, we have to talk to you about something. Go back and talk to.
Well, we want you to ask them about if you want to be under our capital budget or if you're planning on staying under your capital plan.
So
There's a little bit of like the horse trade, right? Of like take our capital budget and use it into our operating expenses for this year in exchange for participating in the town's capital budget with the items that we laid out.
And for this year, I think keeping your fundraising money.
Yeah.
That's the part of the change too. You're giving up 66, but you're going to get whatever to put in that fund.
Right.
And then next year,
it'll be
we'll read the
30.
you get an operating budget.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we'll have to come back.
Decide that you don't want to do the
So we're giving up
Practice.
66.
I don't.
No, you're not giving up
Go away from
66.
that.
I mean,
Oh,
it's, because your budget, your.
because we have it 66.
Yeah, you're trading that.
You're
We're gonna-
not
we're gonna
even
use that.
necessarily doing that because it's 60,000 first. It'd be 60,000. And this budget will start in July. And so you'll have your fundraising, you'll be doing your fundraising, which is when do you do your fundraising? It's all next year, so that would be you'd have that money already there. So you could be using,
Right. And
So what the town is,
you should be getting your second half of
In February.
in February, you'll get a chunk of money from the last,
Yeah.
budget that we're in right
but
now.
the town's contributing, that's what I'm,
well, the town right now, so I think we said, was it the 50,000, we said 50,000?
51 something.
No, it's 50.
50.
50, and then we have your capital budget, capital plan, the items that you had in there, which you did take some off tonight, which is great because we did that with the ARPA money.
The ARPA money.
So,
But
So we need to get them to 110 though, right?
And
So
you'll have-
if they're 66, we need to
I
come up
think
with
you'll have
54.
30,000 coming in
No.
February.
no, they're at 50, so they would need to 60 to get to their 110.
Okay.
But
That's right.
they're gonna
I'll
have,
say that's how my
Better
math.
math than mine.
I'll say that's how my
Western
math
math, we
works.
do hectares. Yeah, 60, right.
Yeah.
But the follow-up to that is, next year when you come and ask for an operating budget, we have to still sort out, is it gonna continue that you keep your fundraising and we're gonna come up with the whole chunk?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, we're gonna have to figure that out.
We buy enough time then.
Right, to have it. We'll have it over the next couple of years.
That still leads you to a deficit
No,
at some point.
you're still, if we take on their capital stuff, their fundraising is gonna go towards their operating
But
expenses.
that's what I'm saying, that's what we have to figure out.
But it's 110, and if we only,
I don't think
if you
you
guys
two
give us
are on the
50 and
same
we get
page in
30,
your.
No, I'm just throwing
that's
the
still
options.
only 80, that's still
Yeah.
a $30,000
If
gap.
we're gonna go back
We're
to
saying
the,
next year.
Right, and,
as part of the
and we'll
operating,
agree
we do
with,
that, that's what we do.
and we'll talk about, so if our fundraising still goes into capital, then next year we come back and say if we only have.
No, you're
Operating.
Sorry, operating.
right, thank you.
Yeah. If our
Do you
operating,
want me to come to your meeting?
yes.
What day
I
is
do.
it?
The 9th, right? Is that what you
Okay.
said?
Yes,
I'll put it on
I
my
believe so.
calendar.
One building over.
Yeah, I don't have that.
No, it'll be west this month.
Oh, then,
40.
One half town over, one river over.
yeah.
We swap every other month.
So if we only, what do we generally bring on?
You're gonna get 30,500 in February this year.
Right.
So,
So then we'll come to what we have next year and we'll kind of renegotiate it, and if we need more, and we'll talk to you then.
yeah, just like Lee does and
Okay.
just like everybody else.
Right, yeah, no, that's fine.
Yeah.
We just needed to be all on the same page.
Yes, yeah. It's good
And
to
it
be
could,
there.
could be, like I said to Maria, it's gonna be a $30,000 deficit next year. Because if we carry over 30,000 in fundraising and they give us the same 50,000 that they give us this year, that brings you to 80,000, and our operating's still gonna be higher than 110.
So next year the discussion is then in the.
That'll be that discussion
whatever
next
that
year, but don't be.
is, how did our fundraising exceed expectations and it's only.
Yes.
Which in theory is
or-
exactly where we started this whole thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, which is,
Yeah.
you use your fundraising for part of our expenses, we fund the rest, and all we want to do is take over your capital. I mean, that was literally where we started, which is where we're exactly at now. It's no
Right.
But
different.
at least we're on the same page.
Well,
Yeah, maybe we don't use the term take over your capital.
oh no, I think you should use the term.
Yeah, you gotta be a little gentler with that.
Yeah, the town,
Because we don't wanna make it sound like we're taking it over and that we're gonna be in control.
yeah,
Because the town, last thing the town wants to be is in control of anything like that. I mean, we want you guys to run your department the way you run your department. We just wanna be able to help you with your capital budget through the town's capital plan. Not take over your capital plan, but help you with your capital plan, putting it into the towns so we can present it as one thing to the taxpayers, which is a lot easier than doing it
As in line.
right any other way. You just do it, it's simple, straightforward.
and it gives us.
It's not taking over. so
Yeah,
to
it
speak.
gives us the chance to, start putting money aside for, a big ticket item like the
Scott Pax.
Scott packs. So it's not,
Air packs.
so we're not.
Air packs, thank
You
you.
gotta say air packs
So
if
we're
he
not,
wants to go down that side.
asking, for $170,000 increase in your
Right.
line item. Now, we've got it budgeted through the capital.
Mind if I take that for a second and take a copy of it?
So,
Go make a copy.
It's on the town website.
I know. Easier when you're not looking at it on my screen.
One of the things that a lot of the while he's making that copy, one of the concerns that a lot of the department has is the town trying to take over entirely, which is what
Yeah.
Louis just said.
Right.
You guys don't want to do. So just trying to be on the same page. Like,
yeah,
we want to run our stuff, and as long as we can continue working together and being on the same page, then
yeah. I can't imagine, you know,
Zeke was getting a Dalmatian, I know that, so I don't know what that has to do with anything, but I saw it in his yard.
dog running at.
well, if you heard the air horn on Christmas Eve, that was me.
I think maybe sounds like we're almost
Down
done
the
here,
corner.
but how did rescue come sit in this chair and?
They have before, and but their contract's more than, not every year, so.
Yeah,
How does, just curious, like, do you feel like there are things about that relationship that are good, that the fire department should try to emulate, or things that are bad, that we should not emulate? You know, I don't
Go ask Brad.
always enjoy sharing a light with them, but we're both nonprofit emergency responders with very different backgrounds and approaches to things. So I'm just curious, from a town perspective,
yeah, I can't help you with that.
what's good? Nothing?
Nothing's
I
good.
don't know.
No, nothing to speak of, nothing.
Well, I mean, they presumably use the money that we give them as a town to do things like buy capital equipment.
Yeah, we don't have rescue in our capital budget.
Yeah.
If they were to come and ask us, well, we'd sit down and talk with them, but no, that's not happening. So, yeah, the town doesn't want to take over the fire department. We have enough trouble just, you know, keeping planning commissioners going and conservation commission and things like that.
Hot Scoobies.
Yeah,
So I guess really, we don't need, I wouldn't think we need them until after they talk to after the 9th.
Yeah.
The meeting after the 9th is when I think we'd want to.
Think you'll be there?
I'll come on the 9th.
yeah,
And our
I-
meeting's on the 10th, so.
Yeah, so on the 10th you can.
yeah, I'll try to come too. I think I.
Yeah.
What
That'd be
I
time?
mean, everyone's welcome, 6:30 is when it starts, so.
Is there gonna be like some food,
That I heard.
cookies or something?
You can have whatever's in the freezer.
If more than two of us go, it's gonna have to be more than a meeting.
Yeah,
I'm getting ready to leave that day for my trip. So I'm going to-
Will you go?
See, but now, that's the
Well,
problem.
these two
with this,
Will you go?
and that's
I
where,
won't, no.
if you-
If you two go, I
if
won't
you
go,
told-
because then we won't have to warn it,
So you up that.
unless you want me to.
yeah, let's warn it and
Okay.
give you the option.
Okay.
We don't have to.
Yeah, all our meetings we all open to.
Yeah, we just have to warn if
there's
Yes,
three of
if there's more than,
Okay.
yeah, there's three
They
of us,
can't go places together.
yeah,
We can't go to the same barbecue, I'm sorry.
no.
We can in shifts. From 12 to 2, 2 to 4.
Technically, we could because it's your meeting as long as we don't discuss it amongst ourselves.
Right, yeah.
So
We have to sit in separate corners now.
right,
So I mean,
no sign
I know I've
language.
had some questions, but I think it's a very good exchange. I mean,
Yeah.
It's really interesting and we'll figure it out somehow.
We should,
Yes,
I'm glad you guys come in and talk.
we should change the meeting to center though, if we can.
Yep, we can do that. I'll
Just
just,
because it's
That would be nice.
and it's a lot quieter.
Well, it's a quieter
Yeah, it is.
environment, you're not
Yeah.
sitting in a metal chair and,
Mhm, yeah.
yeah.
I'm
Class it up.
100%.
Well, I mean,
Recliner.
the center station is really nice and the west station is just a big truck garage. I mean,
Yeah. So we'll see you at the center station on the 9th.
thank you for letting us take
Yep.
up hours of your
For another-
time.
Yes,
All right.
exactly.
Around the brain.
Paul, anything?
Thank you, Bob. Thank you for letting us hash things
All
out.
right. Anyone need a map or just?
Thank you for letting me bring the front one. 6:30.
6:30.
All right, your turn, I guess. Yeah, all right. I'll talk to Wayne, make sure that comes early.
That was the 9th?
Yep,
I don't see Wayne having a problem moving it to this station.
but still have to talk to him.
Okay.
He won't at all. Closer for him too.
So we got more meetings to finish.
Yes, we do.
Sorry, guys.
Let's see, the school.
Oh, you're leaving.
I'm not not sure whether it was a school board or a school committee.
It's a committee.
Yeah,
It's,
would like to, they never got back to me on how much time they'd like, but,
Oh, I thought she said 10 or 15
Yeah,
minutes.
she did say she was gonna try to keep it short, 10 to 15
okay,
minutes.
well, they'd like 10 or 15 minutes.
I think we'll see.
That's like,
Yeah.
what are we allowed to do
Yeah.
with
I'll get in touch, back in touch with them.
it?
Let's see, we've skipped around a little. Updates and discussion from Linden Regional Commission, VLCT.
Did you see the email from VLCT
Yeah.
that they're actually recommending that we have all of the ARPA funds authorized before the end of March
No, really.
2024?
Well, we're gonna get those.
Which,
structure
what's left
things.
is the structures and the installation of the covered bridge decking, if I remember right.
And engineering.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well,
We've already authorized that,
Alright.
so, yes,
And so, yeah, it just needs to be the stuff just needs to be authorized.
authorized, yes.
Doesn't have to be spent.
we
Right,
just need the numbers. Okay. Yes,
Speaking of ARPA, I'm just remembering here to say that Dummerston Cares had applied for funding and was told at the end of March that you would be back in touch with them. I don't think they've heard anything.
no, they haven't.
I
Yeah,
didn't hear
No,
anything about that.
okay, I'll get in touch with them.
Thank you.
But I don't, yeah, we're not going to go with their proposal. But I will formally get in touch with them.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So are we ready to go into liquor control?
sure. I'll make a motion that we recess the meeting and convene as the Liquor Control Board.
I'll second that.
All those in favor? Aye. All right, we have, let's see, application, a tobacco substitute endorsement renewal for Circle K, approve tobacco license renewal for Circle K, and approve a second-class liquor license for Circle K.
I'll make a motion, we approve the substitute endorsement, the tobacco license, and the second-class liquor license for Circle K.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right,
I'll make a motion, we approve the special events permit for the Scott Farm for 2/25/24 from 11 a.m. to 4:30 p.m.
I'll second that.
okay, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
One abstention.
Yep.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion that we reconvene the regular meeting.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Would you like to go into, do some budget work?
Did you add the resignation for the,
Oh, forgot it, no. Okay, let's see, we received a resignation, notice from Lewis White. He would like to resign as one of our emergency management directors and also cemetery commissioner. Well,
And do we have to accept it? Is that?
yeah.
It'd be sort of nice if you did.
all right. I'll make a motion that we accept Lewis's resignation with regrets.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
One abstention.
Yeah. You don't want to vote on it yourself.
No,
Okay.
I would
All
have taken out years ago.
Now, would you like to recess and go into a budget work session? Oh, wait. Was there anything, public comment,
I've
anything?
already spoken.
Okay,
It's been a while.
I laughed
if
so
you-
many words.
I think every hour he gets referred through.
Oh, was that, did you hear that?
No, it doesn't work that way.
I would like to request some time for a Zoom with some people at a coming meeting that you have, and how do I go about that? Or am I doing it?
I think you're doing it.
I think you're
So you want us to Zoom some people into the meeting?
I want to see if there's time for or some people to meet, yes, and I can explain more about it when the time comes. And that might be now.
What time comes that we have the Zoom? Or you want to be put on the agenda? You want to be put, which agenda would you like to be put on? I mean, when would you like that agenda to be?
Well, you've got meetings on the 10th and the 24th of January and the 7th and 21st of February. I have to speak with one of the people. So let me just give some background here. I am representing Dummerston Cares that has been proposing that the Selectboard adopt the Declaration of Inclusion that the electorate approved last year by 382 to 34. And when we went at the end of March to see if the Select Board would do it, you wouldn't take it up. So there have been questions that I could not answer. What about this? Well, what if this happened, etc. And the people who know more about this are the point people in the state that have gone through the League of Cities and Towns, and they have, through them, started a website, the Declaration of Inclusion, .org. Al Wakefield is the person that I work with. He's one of the 3 founders of this statewide, who encouraged the governor to adopt a Declaration of Inclusion, and the governor made this proclamation in May of 2021. Then the State Chamber of Commerce and many other organizations around the state, plus I think Mike said 130 towns. It's 132 towns, and 72% of the population now have adopted this. We thought last year, when the townspeople adopted so overwhelmingly, that that would be enough, and it turns out that Al Wakefield, representing the League of Cities and Towns, say no. What they want is the municipality to adopt. And if you recall what Mike said today, employment, job strength is one of the big things that the legislature is working on, and putting the welcome mat out to people to invite more people, particularly people who might feel unwelcome or marginalized here. Anyway, to welcome people in our aging and, half of the jobs being unfilled right now, it's an important thing for a town. So Al said that he would come and answer questions, because when people shoot a question at me, it sounds like it's litigious or you don't know exactly what's going on. I don't think litigation has anything to do with this. It's putting the welcome mat out. It's being on record as saying, this is our declaration of inclusion for people, and having it in the town plan, etc., makes Dummerston stand among those 132 towns and following the will of the people. So what I'm proposing is that you choose a date that I will check with Al, or choose many dates that might work for you, for I would say 15 to 20 minutes, so that you could ask questions.
Could I just interrupt you really quickly?
Sure.
Could you call him up and get a date and just get with us and let us know what that date works for you?
Any of those 4 dates.
Any of those dates, because
Okay,
we're gonna
great.
be here. We're gonna be here anyways.
All right.
So just you pick the date,
All right.
and instead of just pick a date, call Zeke up, he's the chair, and he will put you on the agenda.
I would say might want to bypass the 10th because I won't be here. I'm the guy that's gonna run the Zoom,
Okay.
so maybe not the 10th.
Okay, now I will say that, that Al Zooms all around the state. And Mike Mrowicki, who will be in session in Montpelier, also wants to Zoom. So do you have the technology to handle a couple of people Zooming?
Yeah, we'll set up, we have an account, we have a town account, and I'll set up a camera on here. So
Okay,
there'll be a camera, there'll be a microphone, it works out. really
okay, all right. So, I apologize for not emailing you ahead of time for this, so that you could discuss it. I have been ill around Christmas with huge things to do and guests and whatever, so I did not send a petition that we are circulating. We need about 80 signatures petitioning that a non-binding article, advisory article, go on the warning, charging the select board to accept as town policy the Declaration of Inclusion as approved by the voters last year. And I will send that to you in the mail, in your email tomorrow. And what's the best way for me?
Selectboard@dummerston.org.
Okay,
Is there a reason that the meeting with Al Wakefield should be prior to the completion of our budget period?
oh,
So that
well,
would
not
be
necessarily, depending
January.
on his availability. The reason for having this is to be transparent about the petition and for you folks to ask any questions. I've had people talk to me saying, why aren't you doing more about this? I thought we approved this. And I'm saying, well, we're just moving along at a pace that, that we can. But the other thing is that I've also gotten questions like, well, what about so-and-so who moved to town and the neighbor is not welcoming to the person? What am I supposed to do about that? Or what if the select board has to intervene, etc.? And I don't think that puts any of you, by adopting a Declaration of Inclusion, we welcome all persons regardless of, and then, race, color, creed, religion, those types of things, age. I understand you're probably doing your homework. Here you are meeting. I don't know if you've had supper yet, but you're hardworking people and you don't want something to explode that you don't see coming. I don't anticipate that this is an issue at all. And 132 towns, feel the same way. Plus many institutions, faith-based and nonprofit. So, any questions?
How would you feel if the select board were to endorse the Declaration of Inclusion?
I would say yippee.
Okay.
To
that be
adopt it, I guess it is. Yeah.
Would that be enough? Great.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, if that were to happen, I would say do some homework and ask Mike and Al, what is this or that? Think about questions. If the select board were to adopt before town meeting, then I think there would be no call for the advisory resolution.
Okay.
Okay,
But you'd be okay if we endorsed it?
I would be okay if you endorsed
No,
it.
yeah,
Yeah.
Well,
sure.
Dummerston Cares,
yes.
of course, whom I'm representing.
Yeah.
We're saying endorse or adopt. You would vote
Yeah.
to have this be the town policy that we are welcoming to. And I'm sorry, I don't have my computer with me to quote you, but it was what was
Yeah. On the,
proposed last year that the town people, except for this typo, that we
form. It was form.
we want respectful interaction in all forums, and I made the typo, or maybe my spell corrected, and it said FORMS, but we meant to say FORUMS. So the new wording has FORUMS, and that's the only change.
All right.
Okay, so I will send the wording of the petition forward and get Al and Mike here on a Zoom, and I thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Let's see. Okay. Would you like to do some budget work or?
So I need to leave around 8:45. I've got what's gonna be a very short corporate board meeting at
How long
9.
will it take you to?
You can just say you can leave at 8:45 so you have a life. That's fine.
It's not a life. It's another meeting, but it's short meeting right at 9.
Well, so, yeah, I mean, might as well. I don't care. One way or the other.
Well, I assume Lee's here for something to do with the budget.
No, I just heard it might be discussed, so I
Okay,
showed up, that's
let's
all.
recess our regular
So
meeting.
I'll make a motion that we recess the meeting and start a budget work session.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, here we are in the budget work session.
Change clothes.
Yeah.
Lee,
Yes.
do you have anything for us?
I just have the new copy of the new structures in town. And worth, how much they're worth, and
When the budget meeting, I think you had that.
this is a new one, I think that Laura just worked out, but, yes. That's pretty
You
much.
didn't just give me this last because I'm family, did you?
Right, exactly.
Picked up on that.
You did too, didn't you? You could have given it to me first, I was right there.
Sure. You don't have to shovel culverts tomorrow, we'll still do that.
And you're giving this to us?
Yes, just to be aware.
Okay,
And that goes in the town report.
yep.
So, and if you see anything wrong, feel free to correct us. The only, as you see on the bottom, the only thing that's really not included is the covered bridge and the green iron bridge due to, I'm not sure who pays for the repairs of those totally. The covered bridge does have 500,000 in it over the next 100 years, but that is due to bridge decking, which every 13 years will need to be done.
Which the decking's gonna be done.
Next, this,
Through ARPA.
hopefully, yes.
Yes,
This
yeah.
summer.
So now why is it every 13 years, Lee? They can't find something that lasts longer than?
It's white oak, and I think that's right. That's what they recommend, and it just gets high use. It's really high use compared to most smaller covered bridges. It could be 14. You just never.
Right, but it's.
But right in that time frame. That's about what it lasted this time.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, notice there's some holes in it.
Yeah, and I'm afraid if it starts going, it's going to go quick, and then you'll end up with bolts sticking.
So that's white oak also.
Yes. Yes.
Which one of the structures on Park Lawton Road is gonna be done?
All right, that's the double boiler tube, just past Spalding Hill Road. It's been flooding pretty much every storm.
So the one marked fair on here then?
Yeah.
7?
Oh, she didn't put the rank down. So on the rank, yes, that should be, yeah.
That's the one that we're gonna do this summer?
Yeah, it is marked fair, but it should be marked poor. After the couple floods ago, it got damaged a little more, so.
Okay.
Yes.
And really the date of 2026 is really gonna be 2024.
Correct.
I looked at that Leonard Road culvert during that last 4.5 inch storm, and it was filled almost to top quarter of it.
Pretty much there was, a lot of them are that way throughout the whole town. If we had got another couple inches, we would have.
They would have overtopped.
Yeah, more issues.
So would a larger diameter
Yep.
culvert go in there?
Yep. I think it's like a 10-foot wide bridge, will be there.
Oh, bridge.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or something that the fish can go up through.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, we'll correct those, because there are a couple things, now that you mention that.
And that all, the park lot and road's already gone out to bid, hasn't it?
Yes. Yeah. I guess my point to this whole thing too is, as far as putting the price for everything, when you look at that, the 15 million, it's, if we can't get grants, we're gonna have to borrow for those also. Mostly the two bridges that down in the hollow, being, I think, with those prices. I did check with the state, but they could just give me an estimate too on the price of those too.
So on the general fund
Yep.
budget, I got the grand list number from Gene Mill on the county tax
Yeah.
line. So I think we can actually reduce that number.
Okay.
Yeah, it's line 125. So they had the published rate there a couple weeks ago.
Yep.
So I think we can actually reduce that from 35,000 to 30,630.
Wow, it's pretty close, wasn't it?
Great.
What was that number?
30,630. That was based on the published rate and the grand list.
Great. That's the earliest we've been able to figure that out.
Yeah. And hopefully that passes. But, we'll see. I don't think anything else is. Everything else was kind of the same, so,
We had a long discussion with the fire department, ended up at the exact same spot we were.
yeah,
Nothing changed on that.
no, so.
And we took the 7,000 off the capital plan for that.
Right, so on the capital plan, we can take off the pagers and the helmets. And then they sent an email about the painting.
Yeah,
So-
5,000 or something, you said?
What's that?
Did they say 5,000?
Yeah, so I don't know if we wanna reduce that from 10 down to 5,
That's what I thought it said.
yeah. Well, that's what they thought they could do it for. When they got a price, it was like 26,000, that was just
So I
ridiculous.
think they're just gonna buy all the paint.
And do
what
it
they need to do
themselves.
themselves.
So we're dropping the paint down to 5,000?
Mm-hmm. I don't think we should change the dollar amount that we're gonna, for taxes to be raised, just because of all the other
You keep it at 178. Is that what it was? Or-
No, 185.
5.
Oh yeah, 'cause I took the 7 off. Right.
Yeah, that'll just help next year's 132.
Exactly. I don't know if there's any, I don't think there's, change the wages, on the highway budget, but I didn't, it was whatever we discussed last time.
And what did you end up, with the wages? You just wanna make it, if you can't hire anyone when somebody gets done, do we have a plan for that? Either we tell the taxpayers now that we're gonna be brought up to average, or, when we can't hire anyone, the select board decides to go with 3 full-time people, say, if that's the case, or if we're gonna, go up to that average and then bump everyone else up above it. I just think that it's your chances are very low, I believe, of getting somebody for $20 an hour. When other people are offering a lot more than that. And so either you gotta tell them, the taxpayers are gonna get it one way or the other, and we're gonna be over budget. So if we're over budget, as long as everyone realizes that the reason we're over budget is because we didn't put enough, and I just wanna be on record saying that I don't believe it's enough, after hearing the numbers. And the other thing was the overtime. When people get closer to retirement, people like to take the overtime instead of comp time. And then, of course, you can make it, 4 out of the 5 years, you might be good at 120 hours. When you're at 180 hours, where we've always budgeted our whole, I believe since I've been here, is that acceptable for going over budget? I just want to be clear there too, we have a couple people who might want to take more overtime now, because of Social Security and all those kind of things. That if it's over, it's, I don't want to say it's anyone's fault. It's no one's fault. It's just the way the weather goes. If the storms fall on a weekend or if they fall on a weeknight. And as long as everyone's clear that there's a good possibility that could happen. And I am not willing to send people home without pay in the spring just because we didn't want to budget 180 hours of overtime. So those are my couple things. I think we're way low, and it's none of maybe this group's fault. I think we didn't quite keep up over the years. And so then we try to make the adjustment, and the adjustment's fairly high to come up with average. And I
think we're trying to create a budget that the town will adopt.
Yes, right.
And if they don't, we're
right.
up a creek. So.
Well, right. I think the highway though is something that you pay for, no matter if the town adopts it or not. You'd love the town to adopt it, but I think it's something that you might make it really small. But I also realize that you have to have people in order to do the jobs. And when you start looking at towns around us, it's just like a teacher wouldn't work in Dummerston if Putney was paying 20% more. If the job opened in Putney, you better believe most of them would be up there, or somewhere else. Good working conditions and all that go along with everything too. I realize that. But I do think that you're gonna have a hard time finding somebody, and I'll be coming, if somebody gets done in October, just say, how long do we wanna wait? Put it out there for 20, wait, I don't know, 2 months, say. To me, it's not a matter of, and we're not looking to be above average, or I'm not looking to be above average, but I would like to be making what my counterparts are making, who have been there less time. And whoever comes in here and says that we get the most benefits, they haven't done the research. Because when you start researching every town around, just a family plan alone is $10,000 worth of benefits. It's crazy, I know, the numbers it's a lot, right? But that makes up for every little, and I'm grateful. I don't need a family plan, but I would like to say that if somebody in the highway crew or somebody who came to the highway crew needed a family plan, right? Just like any other town. I've never met a town yet, and you can probably find one that does not offer a family plan. I know companies, if you talk to Maria's company or Lewis's company that he had, or different places, they don't all offer family plans. They might not even offer insurance. But we're not talking about that. We are talking about highway departments in the state of Vermont. Our pool of people, there's nobody going to move in from Colorado to come work here to Dummerston Highway, right? So we're looking for people who are fairly close. We can stretch it, but it would be nice to be within an hour, or it'd be even nicer closer. So I just believe that. And I don't mind a plan, like this year we're doing this. And you know what? Next year, the select board's goal is to do another, because we know somebody here in Dummerston is making $22 an hour. In Putney, they're making 25 or more. Newfane, they're making over 25 for the same job. And they got family plan insurance. Some of them have a 10%, pay, where we don't on our individuals. So I realize all that kind of stuff. But I do think they're talking about the recruitment of people, right? The shortage of people, so we need a long-term plan. If it's a union, they do it, they'll come up with a contract for 3 years, So we have some kind of a, why would you stay, and I heard somebody say that they should do it for the love of the town. But this individual has, I know it wasn't you, but I'm just saying this individual sold or took commissions on things, and I bet you they were doing their job to make money so they could retire and live comfortably, right? And that's the same as everybody who's working here. We all want to be able to retire and live comfortably.
And we might get some insight on, so Putney put an ad up today.
Yes.
crew.
Yes,
I did
yeah.
apply.
Yes.
Yesterday, so it'll be interesting.
But it says it's based on experience.
Yeah, I know, but at some point we'll be able to find out.
Right, but is it gonna be after budget season? That's the question.
Oh,
'cause they-
it's just a data point. I know it's gonna be
Yeah.
after budget season.
Oh, yes, I think that's a lot. You know, and I've talked to Putney Town Manager on different things. Right, it's definitely, you know, when, and they have to get their budgets passed too. I mean, it's not like, you know, everything is gospel when they say what they're going to be doing and what actually happens. So I just believe I want to be on record saying this. I think it's a shitty system that we're doing to the people.
Good. We hear you. And I've got to go.
Okay.
Did I add something for what Lee was talking about? I said I kind of covered a little bit on, you know, what does a town really do? There's a certain skill set that sets not a warm body. I mean, we're driving $180,000 vehicles on icy roads, snowy roads, and grading and around heavy equipment, and you know, it's just a slew of things. And we do, you know, I have friends in Brattleboro that their truck has a problem, they get a flat tire, they take it to the shop and the mechanic just takes care of it. We change it, oil changes, just we do things that a lot of garages don't do because it saves money. And that was part of the hiring. And but you know, I've always been just about the fair piece, you know, if everybody's done their due diligence and got the actual facts, and it's left up to the taxpayers to whether say, you know, we are maybe the lowest. I can't honestly say that. I mean, I can go see my friends that I know that are in all these towns, or do I do this select board to the chairman? You know, who do I get that information in to make sure that the information is correct and there's not hearsay? Because, you know, we saw it right here, you know, the confusion that happens when I heard this or I heard that versus basing things on actual fact. You know, the fire department should have a spokesperson, and that's it. Because these three were, I mean, I was getting kind of tired. But, you know, there is a certain skill set and it's a lot of responsibility. It's not something you're going to just pick up. CDLs, you know, that's got to become a harder issue now. You know, then there's just all those things, like I said, the taxpayers don't really know. They just think town highway, they just plow the snow and take care of the roads. There's just so much more to it. And it's just, you know, how do you educate them? You know, and because it really comes down to the taxpayers. I mean, they're gonna vote it up or down. But if presented the fact that this is what your surrounding towns are doing, and we feel like we'd like to support our highway department and at least get them en route to what's fair. Or, you know, life's not fair, but, you know, it makes it a little harder when you're down in that ditch, in that muck, in 24-degree weather, saying, I love this job. Thank you, Lee, for letting me do this today.
To go off, if you don't mind,
No?
to go off on that, I had been sitting back and Todd had been going to the towns and stuff to get this information. Back when I first got on the select board, and my family member wasn't the road foreman. The road foreman came to me and said, I was told by the person I took the place of, who is no longer with us anymore, and another gentleman that's still in town, that we were right up with every other town and we were above some towns. And the road foreman said, that's not the case. We are so far behind. And so I just, well, let me just go check a couple towns. So I did, and then I called another select board member and we went to the towns and we were so far off. And because we were, you know, buffaloed by a couple select board members that said that, you know, we're here, and we weren't. And I'm not saying some of the, I mean, I've got Guilford's numbers. written down. I mean, and right now, we've got 2 guys right now that are below what Guilford is paying their lowest guy. And their highest guys are at 25, one of them's at 25-20. Another guy's at 25, 23-34. And that is all these numbers that I'm giving you are before they get their raises or their cost of living, whatever they give them. So that is a number. But then I was just really looking at this number here, and I'm looking at our zoning administrator. And nothing against our zoning administrator, but we're going to have a road crew member making, or who makes less than our zoning administrator. I'm sorry, I don't agree with that one bit. I mean, just even our own people, we've got one fellow that's making less than our zoning administrator. Not saying anything that's, to me, just not, shouldn't be. And I know that a couple years ago, I wasn't on the board then, but I did notice it. We had this same issue about the hiring. We ended up with Chip. But we ended up having to raise Tyler because Chip was going to come in making more than Tyler. And, so I think even if we get that buffer closer to what the other towns are making, it'd make it a softer hit when it happens, if we have to go above. So, I mean, even if we stop the discussion right now, I would say that you definitely move Chip above what we're paying our zoning administrator. I would think we want to do that. I mean, I guess I don't know why I didn't see that before when I was going down this list. And then we've got our treasurer, who will be making $23. I mean, our treasurer will be making more. And not saying what Charlotte's doing now doesn't warrant that, but what the new treasurer really has to do is not what Charlotte's doing. I mean, we'd like it to be what she's doing, but it doesn't have to be. So then you just look at that number. It just...
Well, Lee also brought up the point of hiring. I mean, it's just pretty easy going, and you around other people in other towns is just talk, and it's like there's this word out there. It's called poaching. It's been going on for a long time, and it's well known in every industry. People they can't find new help because they're not going to work. And they're not going to work for what they feel they deserve to get off the couch, and it's a problem. So you're seeing businesses poaching other people in all different industries, and and that's just, if I don't like working with people I'm working with and the surroundings and close to home, and it's refreshing after 29 years in your own business, not to deal with the stuff. You all get it. That's been in business. But to hire somebody, like I said, $20 an hour, unless it's somebody like me that's saying, hey, I love to drive trucks, I love to do this stuff, and I'm on the tail end of my work career. And like I said, I enjoy, there's always Wayne, but well, he did it, so I can do it. He picked up somebody else. But it's just one of those things where it's who gets to do the hiring, and that's why I think I had mentioned to Lee how it's easy to pass the buck along. It's like I'm making the decision, fire that person, but Lee's got to find somebody to replace him. The onus is on him, and he's going to struggle, and he's the one that's going to have to pick up that plow route for an extra 3 hours on overtime. and then you're gonna say, how come you're getting all this overtime? You know, just kind of passing the buck along. So it's like, when you make that decision, you know, let somebody go, we're gonna hire somebody, is that gonna be me? I better think about this a little bit, because it's hard. It's hard out there, especially if you've been in a business and had to hire people. You know, it's hard. So to compete with other towns in that industry, you know, people will show up and say, well, you know, I deserve $25 an hour. I don't have a CDL. I've never done anything like this. So you'll have to train me. And there's that whole training process. And after 6 months, they say, hey, you know, I don't really like this. And you're back to the drawing board again. It's tough to be competitive. You know, I dealt with it.
You know, we tried, when we got started, you know, we saw that, you know, Halifax was paying $25 to start, or something like that. And we thought, oh, we got to bring, you know, Chip up to 25, and then everybody else, you know, who with more seniority, higher than that. We had at one time, Lee was going to make $77,000 plus the insurance. And we backed off from there considerably, as you can see. We thought, okay, well, we do the 10% now. And I can't say what the select board will do next year, but the thought was we try to do another, you know, 10%, or, you know, we try to get everybody up to be competitive with the other towns. You know, we just thought it's going to take us, you know, 2 years, which isn't what I want to hear when I'm working at a job, that I'm going to have to wait, you know, a couple of years to make what someone's making a couple of years ago.
But, like Lee said, having a plan in place so that the guy says, okay, this year I'm getting 10%, but I know next year the select board's going to be right there with me and I'm going to get another 5 or another 10. Having a plan in place so these guys know that they're being taken care of, that they're being respected, that the job they do is important to you guys as well as to Lee and to each other. That's a big motivator as well.
But the problem with that is we can't do that because there's 3 of us on the board right now that may not be here next year.
Okay, to go along with that, Zeke, how do you feel if you were on the board next year? About, would you consider 10%?
Oh, if I was, yes, on the board,
yes,
yeah.
You would say, Lee, you can go tell Tyler, we'll just use Tyler, that next year you're going to support another 10%, right? Is that, am I getting this right? Right.
Yeah.
Okay, now.
I'm going to be here.
Oh, yes.
You might be. You might
not be.
But, right. But do you agree with this concept? Yeah, I know you do. I know you do.
My starting position was 25 and then bump all the way up beyond that.
Right. So,
yeah, I think that,
and Maria, if you're going to be on the board, I would like to know your opinion too.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind supporting that, but as they said, the whole board is going to change.
No, it's not going to change.
Yeah,
not the whole board. We're talking 3 people, but 2 people still have a fighting chance. I mean, they can state their opinions, and so I don't want to hear next year. Honestly, I don't, because to me, Tyler should go to Putney, get family care, get $2 more an hour for his family to have insurance, and you know what? Move on. That's what he should do. When we can't hire anyone, then maybe he comes back here for 26 because that's what you might end up giving.
He ain't coming back.
No, I know, but I'm just saying, I need, right, it shouldn't be a question of, are we gonna get 10% next year? You know, and I realize if 3 people get on the board and they say, you know what, we're not doing it.
Well,
and the taxpayers say we're not doing it. Then that's I'm fine with that.
It's already happened here. It's already happened here, though, Lee. Just with a board that's already sitting here. I mean, I really did think Todd's numbers were way high from what he said. I mean, that would have,
Sweet.
you know, it would have been sweet for those guys, but
I
it
had
was,
my road getting
But we
plowed.
were looking at a 50% increase in taxes.
there's where I was going to go with this. We can say that, and you can ask Maria right now, and she says, yeah, I can do that. Todd says, yeah, I would like to do that. But then when it comes budget time next year, and it's going to be that bottom line, that's going to make the person that's sitting in these chairs change their mind.
But you have to bear in mind the whole story here, where we started and where we are now. The difference is we've made significant changes in other areas, right? So when we had 125,000 in the highway structure, that's when we were up at 50%. We don't have that anymore. When we were $40,000 higher on the capital fund, we don't have that anymore, right? So putting the wages back in is not going to balloon it from 23 to 50.
Well, that's what I'm asking you. Are you willing to put? Are you willing to
I'll
say
look at the numbers.
to put it back up to 25?
We're not
Or
done
are you
yet.
willing to? That's what I'm asking you now. Are we willing to go up to 25?
I think we should look at it and see what it does.
Or yes. Or
Yes.
but what are you thinking? I mean, but like I said, right off the bat, Hellas should definitely be above our treasurer. Be above our
As much
treasurer.
as our zoning administrator.
Well, and the treasurer, like I said, 23.10 for the treasurer, and he's going to be $1 an hour less than a treasurer that only really has to sign checks.
And
I mean-
Mark Younger. So
But yeah, it's just like I said, it's not.
I don't know that. I'm not sure that I'm ready to make that comparison between a zoning administrator and a treasurer. I think what
I'm not saying between those, but I'm saying between the road crew member who goes out. It's on call 24/7 from November 15th to April.
What I'm saying is I'm not worried about the road crew against the treasurer. What I'm worried about is, and this is all, you know this, this is what town has to understand, this is all risk management. If you don't want to have a $25 starting pay, if somebody leaves in October and we need people to plow and we don't have a plow, what are people going to do? They're going to call the town office and complain. Why aren't our roads getting plowed? It's because you decided not to be able to allow Lee to hire somebody because of the rates we're paying.
Yeah.
I'm more interested in him being able to hire somebody when we need somebody than comparing those guys to the treasurer. I know maybe you can find a dollar.
Oh no, and I agree with you 100% there. But what I am saying is, if we're thinking about leaving it at a 10%, I think that Chip should definitely be raised up above the treasurer. It's just.
Well, I think, yeah, I mean, so you knew my first number, everybody saw the first numbers, and that's when the panic set in, right? But we've made changes since then. We cut back a couple $100,000
Right.
in other areas. And the 10% is only adding, what's the number here? Let's look at the general highway fund. So the 10% at this point to the wage is not counting FICA, which we leave to Maria to fix. Is only adding $22,000 from last year. That's not a ton of money. If you were to double that and you added 45 for wages, so that everybody was at 25 or above, have we made up for that by taking the $100,000 structure, by taking 60,000 out of, so what would the number be? So it'd be an interesting thing to look at. I mean, I can do it tonight or tomorrow and talk about it next week, right? Because again, it's the most important thing I think that we had to deal with was wages across the board in the budget. Obviously, we don't want our bridges to fall apart in our capital fund. But I mean, that was kind of item number one. We started there, whatever, a month ago or 7,000 hours ago, we sat down here. And so I don't think it's a done deal where it's at. So until we all decide but we have to have the story when the town, somebody says, panic ensues, right? People were saying that our budget was going to go up 50%, schools are going to go up 40%.
No, 20 and 40, I think. 20 and 40 were the two numbers that I saw.
But then again, also how many people, I mean, I'm newer, I've only been here 5 years, so I need another 40 before I'm
Yeah, you really are.
accepted.
What are you doing on this board?
But again, the $250 a year, for the love of the game, as Zeke pointed out last week or the week before, I'm not telling anybody what their budget is, how much money, I don't know. But I would be interested to know how many people understand that what we're doing here for the municipal budget is only 19% of your tax bill. It's not your whole, so people are going, my tax bill's gonna go up 50%. Well, if you're paying $7,000 a year, you're like, that's ridiculous, which it is, right? But building a presentation to the town that says, these are, and I have it here, these are the things that are contributing to the increase. right? Structures is 100,000. We don't have a $90,000 starting surplus that we had last year. That makes up 80% of the increase. It's not wages.
Yeah.
Wages is an increase, I agree. But so that's my spiel on that.
But it's just an understanding that people, I'd say that probably 95% of your townspeople.
I mean, I don't know what you guys are doing on Middle Road for 2 days, cutting down trees and leaving them on the side of the road, but whatever.
I was younger.
So you guys are out there because I was thinking.
No, that was Rich Colgate. That was new house. They got power lines there.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
You guys do it for him?
No. They
No, that was the day we were working the same
You
time.
know, two on Middle Road. One was them, and the other one was you guys.
Yeah, okay.
And I had to jump
Yes.
out in front of a car to get him to stop.
Yeah.
I don't know, it must look awful like
So, yeah, that's
Yes.
a spiel.
Alright.
I mean,
No, I said my piece. I just want to be able to hire somebody and have everyone competitive to
because we can take the risk and just say, you know what, we'll hire somebody at 25. Because that's what you have to do. Do you want somebody working for 25 with everyone else in the garage making less than the person that just started?
right.
No.
You won't have anybody left in the garage.
That's the
If you
first
have
thing.
somebody at more than they
So-
are.
It's just, you know,
Yes.
I'll certainly look at it again.
Well, if he gets down in the ditches and I get this to drive the truck.
You're okay with that?
I like it how I get those chills in me now at my age. I know. What a Sheila, huh?
All right. I'm good. Thank you for listening.
Sure.
And if you need anything else, just let me know.
Yeah, I've come talk to you about my article for the views of Dummerston, but
Oh,
that'll be
yes.
till after the new year.
All right. Perfect.
All right.
Thank you.
But I wonder what it would look like if we said, we put Chip at 25 and then Tyler at 26, Wayne at 26, and I'm not sure.
Hang on,
where
don't
we
tell me,
put-
don't say anything yet, real quick. Let's go. So right now, where we're sitting, and I align mine with Maria's every week, because she's the authority. And with the changes we've made today with the county and everything, we're sitting at, God dang, computer, come on.
I mean, sometime today.
We're sitting at
Nice.
we're sitting at 23.79% increase right now. So, this will automatically update. So, what are you saying for wages hourly for
25,
for who?
Hellas.
Gotcha. Yep.
26 for Holden, and 26 for Tyler Lynch.
Tyler. Never met the guy's my nightmare.
And what if we went to, say, 32 for Lee?
All right. So that'll move Maria's highway ranges, not counting FICA, to 272,636, and that would increase it to 26.01. So it's about a 2.25% increase in taxes from where we were by moving all this up. So that moves, and again, this is just me, but it's a reference, that moves my tax from my increase from 360 for a year to 396. So for me, it'd be an additional $36. It's not saying for everybody, and I don't know how much money everybody has, but so that's kind of the, that's what it's gonna look like. And so of the increase, so far, 16% of it's coming from the general, 37 is coming from the highway. I know this is gonna sound weird. 123% is coming from the structure fund, but we're losing 80%. Or no, sorry, 123 is in the cap fund, but we're losing 80% of the highway structure, so that's how you get to 100%. So the one that's really high.
I was gonna say, because we dropped the structures. fund.
Yeah, down to 25.
Get down to 25. And so that's almost an 80% decrease from what we did last year. So yeah, the wage thing at this point is a 2.25, a little under 2.25% increase in what we're looking at. So things aren't ballooning to 50; they're going up a bit. And maybe we look at, because Maria marks all these ones, some of these non-discretionary ones or discretionary ones, and go, I don't know, can we save a couple $1,000 here and there? I don't know. Now I don't have the real. Oh no, I do have the numbers to fix. Yeah.
Okay, and that, your numbers figure in the overtime and...
Overtime's all in there. Well, I do have overtime in.
Okay.
Yeah, because I have, let me just double check to make sure I'm not lying. But it just doesn't have FICA. Yeah, it has overtime at 120 per person.
Mhm.
So 500, yep. So that's 19.6, yeah, that didn't change. And then it has Lewis in at $23.91, which maybe another consideration. Maybe he goes to 25 or 26, or the part-time position, not you, quitter.
Well, that's the whole thing though, is if,
'Cause it's saved us
I would have to sit over there, but you are actually talking about me at that, and then you would have a part-time, because sometimes, Ted will come in.
Right.
What rate are you going to give that, are you going to give him the same?
Yeah, it's just called part-time, there's no name in there.
That's true, that is part-time, right, so, and the part-time saves us a ton of money, because we're not paying any benefits on it. I mean, that rate is all we're paying that person, as opposed to all the insurance, so.
So I mean, 100 isn't all that out of, oh.
And doing that at 25 bumps it up to 26.13, so negligible from 26.01 to 26.13. So we're still at about a 2.25% range, even with part-time. Get a shirt that says part-time on it.
They don't even give me that, crying out loud. They get nothing.
So those are things to consider. If Paul were here, I'd ask him what his opinion is.
No, you wouldn't have to, he'd tell you.
No, I'd phrase the question in such a way that you have to answer it. Okay. Because I'm always curious to know, like if I'm talking to somebody, like what is an acceptable amount to you? What? If it's zero, fair enough, then it's zero. You're probably not gonna be happy.
I mean, it is funny though that, you know, a couple, well, it was 3 people have stopped me when I've been digging out the culverts and just saying, you know, one person was like, what are you in that culvert doing it for that much for? You know, and then other people were just like, you know, you guys, you know, deserve more. People that have watched it. I know one of them is supposed to talk to Alex because I guess he's on a board with him and said, I can't believe you guys are getting that. So it's not just what we're hearing from these people, it's a whole town out there and everybody has their different views on the different.
Oh, I said I have a builder who comes to my house, you know, I have other people, I talk to them all the time. I know what you can and can't hire for. I know what you can't hire for, certainly, at least with those people, with various companies.
Right, well, depending on what
I'm very aware of what's going on.
Right, what they do.
So
we'll try those numbers and see what they look like.
What time's pizza getting here?
Oh, we
had that before
we got here. You've been here the whole time. Dang it. It's chilly at my house. All right. Ruby.
We can keep going if you
No.
like.
I'll make a motion that we reconvene the regular meeting.
Second,
All those in favor?
Aye. I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
I'll second it.
Give it a moment.